Please welcome our Grand Marshals, George Lopez and Troy Aikman.
Señores,
Gentlemen,
enciendan
start
sus
your
motores.
engines.
Let's have a look at the starting lineup for the Samsung Radioshack 500. Newman and Mayfield and Dodge is separated by 2/100ths of a second, and Casey Kane, yesterday's winner, starts third in another Dodge. Ricky Rudd, his best start of the season. Greg Biffle, backup car, goes to the back. And as you look at the rest of the starting lineup, we'll go trackside. Matt Yoakum.
Mike Jeff Gordon will have the very first pit stop off turn 4. Now he's hoping for a very big next 2 weeks. He's never won here in Texas. He's never won in Phoenix. Now on Friday, he was very productive in qualifying, earning the 7th starting spot. But Saturday was near disaster. They struggled in final practice. In fact, at one point, they were a full second off the pace. They changed just about everything suspension-wise from the firewall forward, trying to fix his loose, tight condition. They won't know until about lap 10 whether they have indeed fixed it. And if they haven't, it could be a very long day for Super G. To Jeannie Zelasco.
Well, Matt, we are spanning the generations here, literally, from the rookie Travis Kvapil, Dale Earnhardt Jr., all the way to the retiree Terry Labonte, including his brother Bobby Labonte, who spent the morning in the infield care center. He woke up early with the flu, had several IVs. He's going to start. That's what he says. This is his home track. This is the track of his sponsor. But waiting in the wings, right here, Kenny Wallace, who told me that today he actually forgot his cell phone, so it was a tough job for the Gibbs guys to track him down, but he's ready to go. Steve?
Well, Jeannie, I'm down here in pit boxes 11 through 22, and specifically right now, the Evernham Motorsports teams of Jeremy Mayfield and Casey Kane are pitted side by side. That's appropriate. They will start side by side on the racetrack. Before this season, these teams were so excited about the new Dodge Charger body, but once they got on the racetrack, they were disappointed. Well, Ray Evernham had his team go back to work. They tore the bodies off, put new ones on. They've tested, they've been to the wind tunnel. And speaking of Casey Kane, who's been second 6 times, as DW mentioned, he got that win yesterday, and seeing Carl Edwards win at Atlanta gave him a little bit extra motivation. To the editor of Speedway Illustrated, Dick Berggren.
Thanks. I'll be covering the 10 pits that are closest to turn 1. That includes Ryan Newman, who won the pole for this race, and also Jimmy Johnson, whose pit I'm standing in right now. Now, Johnson is on an incredible roll. 12 straight top 10 finishes. He has already won this year. He leads the points by a substantial margin. He starts 18th today. Not to worry. They got the car dialed in after qualifying and after the early practice sessions, and yesterday afternoon he was the fastest man in the final practice.
As Chad Knaus showed, this is serious work, but it's serious fun. 200,000 fans and all the people that work on these cars and work with us, and it's all because we love to be here. Which of these 43 drivers will go to victory lane and have their photograph made? We saw the top 10 in points earlier, and an interesting statistic. The average age of the drivers in the top 10 right now, 35. 1 year ago, the average age was just about 30. What's going on here, Darrell Waltrip, now that these experienced and older drivers are the ones in the front of the standings?
Well, you hit it. It's experience. First of all, I think the rules package this year, the little small, shorter spoiler, the softer tires, that's back to the future. The impound rule, I think that plays into the hands of the more experienced, the ones that have been here, done it the most. I think that's what's going on with these guys being up in the top 10 and the age.
And DW, most of them, with the exception of Casey Kane, when it came time to go fast on qualifying day at the fastest racetrack on the circuit, they got her done then because they're starting up near the front as well.
On the pace laps, time to go down to the Fox Cutaway Barbecue. Chris and Jeff.
Jeff Gordon starts 7th, but after the final practice session, not real happy with the car. They did a lot of adjusting. Jeff Hammond, talk about the tools of adjustment as we go 500 miles today for every crew.
Well, yeah, obviously it's going to be the wedge wrench. Put in there to make your adjustments for your track bar or your wedge. The other thing is spring rubbers. And Larry McReynolds pointed out how hot the racetrack is. Well, if the guys put too much tape on the car, Chris, it's going to run hot. And on top of that, if you don't have the right kind of tape on it, as far as the downforce is concerned, that can also get you in trouble. So watch for these teams to come in, pull tape off, make adjustments all day long to try to get these cars hooked up. And
I'll be barbecuing
you're
at the
not
Hollywood
qualified
Hotel
to be operating the kind of mechanical tools.
All right, Cowboy, let's go racing. Mike?
Searching would be a good word to describe Casey Kane's race here yesterday, Darrell. He searched high and low for a groove that his car liked at that point in the race. Usually it was the top of the racetrack. Sometimes it was the bottom. But he found a way to make his car happy and won it.
Yeah, we hear about adjustments all the time in the pits, but drivers have to make adjustments too. They've got to go where the car wants to go. If she's good up high, sail her in there and take her up high. If she'll work on the bottom, hang her on the yellow line and go.
And for a race in the middle portion, like I think we'll see today, we get those long green runs. There's not a lot of opportunities, especially in the mid portion, to make pit road adjustments. That's where my driver has to move that race car around. See, pit road speed, 45 miles per hour. We've seen a lot of problems with that this year. And there's the fuel window, 60 to 65 laps, long way around this racetrack.
Larry, there's a reason why we've been seeing pit road violations on exit mainly, and we'll get to that a little bit later on when we start to make pit stops, but I think I know why.
There is a wrench down in turn number 1. Somebody's thrown a monkey wrench.
Oh, they threw it out too soon. Dadgummit.
That's
so we're not
supposed to
going
be
to go
when
this
that
time.
leader's coming.
That's right.
There are your NASCAR on Fox onboard cameras. I think we're going to have a day much like Atlanta. One of those rubber band races. The field may string out a bit, but pit stops and adjustments and caution flags will likely bring them right all back together for a big Texas-style finish.
Oh, I think you're definitely right. The ending of this race will be, it'll have everybody in this joint, all 200,000 of them on their feet. I promise you that.
Time for the singular virtual crew chief question. Will Richard Childress Racing score its first Texas win? To vote, text the word crew to 191 on your singular wireless phone or go to foxsports.com. You'll be entered for a chance to drive away in your own singular number 31.
Yeah, I think the other question too is, can Jeff Gordon break into the victory circle, win column here?
4 drivers, 4 tracks where he has not won. This and Phoenix next week are 2 of them. We've have a look at drivers who will have to move to the back.
We talked about Greg Biffle in the 16 car, qualified 5th, blew a right front tire in practice yesterday morning, had to go to a backup car, Matt Kenseth, who didn't really have that great of a qualifying run anyhow. 39th, they had a vibration, they changed the transmission, and before qualifying on Friday, the 25 car, Brian Vickers, had an engine problem, had to change. They go to the rear of the field.
But the main thing is I get to keep my pit selection, and that's what I was worried about.
A lot's been made of Casey Kane. Can he win here today and score the double that Carl Edwards did in Atlanta and Kevin Harvick at Bristol?
I saw him walking through the garage last night after that race. He's got the pep in his step. Had a lot of confidence going into this race today.
4 drivers have finished second more times than Casey Kane's 6 second-place finishes before getting their first one. Get out your pencil and pad. Start making notes. We'll fill you in a little later on who they are. You'll get 3 out of the 4. Yeah, I don't think you'll get the 4th one.
Are you saying that to me?
No, no, to everybody.
Well, you were looking at me like I...
No. I'm looking at you because it's time.
Oh, yeah, baby.
All right, boys, pace car off. DW, reach up there and pull those belts tight. One more time. Let's get her done, Texas style.
Boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing, partners.
Nice clean start. You heard Ricky Rudd work the throttle just a bit there.
Look for trouble off a turn too early, though. That's where the trouble spot seems to be.
DW, they're already 3 and 4 wide through 3 and 4 over the front stretch.
abreast. Jarrett, Quaffle, Bobby Labonte, and Jimmy Johnson on the first lap.
Still riding with Ricky Rudd here.
Got a lead change here going down the back, Larry. The 19 car pulls the inside of Ryan Newman, and he's going to take the lead, and he's going to bring Casey Kane on the outside.
There's Casey Kane in that 9 car, exactly where he was yesterday in the Busch race.
Anybody surprised?
Not at all.
Whoa, round goes the 07.
Dave Blaney.
43's in the grass. Everybody's taking a base. He moves 42 down the pit lane.
And I don't believe anyone else got damaged.
Everybody straight right there.
I said, watch that turn forward. Could be trouble today.
First caution of the day, Dave Blaney's spin. Now the infield at Texas, or rather the grass in this quad oval, has its pitfalls too. A couple drivers shot through the grass for evasive action, but as we saw in the IROC race Friday afternoon, there are storm drains there, and one of them was the undoing of Kurt Busch in the IROC race.
Yeah, these things don't like to go off-road, I can tell you that. They don't like off-road.
You can see him.
He just gets up high, yeah, and he's up high, and he just gets around, does a great job, stays in the throttle. Man, that's important. Stay in that throttle till she turns around with you and head home.
Riding with Kevin Harvick.
There she goes.
Almost like it started hitting the bumps, Daryl.
Keep going. Keep going.
She had the hospital hop right there.
Dale Jarrett's view. Yikes.
Come on up a little bit. Come on up. Okay.
Yikes.
And from pit road.
Look, look, look. He's grabbing the guy and saying, look.
Jeff Green slipped through the grass, and Carl Edwards took a big bounce. Don't know if that'll damage his 99 or not.
The Samsung Radioshack 500 Hot Box is brought to you by Radioshack. You've got questions, we've got answers. By FedEx, proud sponsor of the number 11 car. By Lowe's, where you'll find all your home improvement needs. Lowe's, improving home improvement. And by Chevy, the defending manufacturer's champion. The revolution races on. And from Michael Waltrip's in-car camera in his Chevy is Napa Chevrolet as we look at what caused the first caution here.
Well, he's going right along behind Kevin Harvick. All of a sudden, he sees Dave Blaney in 07 just back in just a little. Comes around. He's back off of the grass. You see Carl Edwards. He's diving for the grass. The 88 car, Dale Jarrett. He's trying to figure out which way to go. 4 cars down in the grass. I mean, all these guys are woeing up, waving their hands, trying to find an area where they can keep themselves out of trouble, not get run in the back of it, and see what happens to the 07 car. Everybody did a really good job.
Ride with Jason Leffler through this. Wow, that had a lot of Tom Cruise look to it.
All the way. Good job, baby.
Always pretty good about turn
Good job, buddy.
I've done that a lot.
Blaney had qualified 12th, so that was about 2/3 of the field coming at him.
See the black marks across that storm drain? That's where Kurt Busch went through during the IROC race. We reviewed the tape. Nobody hit it on this caution. That's a good thing. Green flag waves as we complete 6 laps. Mayfield, Newman, Casey Kane, Jeff Gordon, Rusty Wallace.
I'll tell you one thing, it doesn't take long to get up to speed at this joint. Look at Jeff Gordon down the back right there. He got a great restart. He jumps alongside of Casey Kane. Casey likes that high line. He likes that Texas high, wide, and handsome.
Michael Waltrip also spent a lot of time up on the high side yesterday. Which is not surprising. Last week's winner, yesterday's winner. Duel for 3rd. Gordon's going to win that scuffle.
Brings Tony Stewart in the 20 car with him. Tony looked awfully good in practice yesterday. Of course, had one of the better cars at Martinsville last week till he lost the right front wheel.
And that big
round goes somebody there. Is that the 10?
Scott Riggs, the 10 car. Caution is out again.
Oh, my. Right down in front of everybody.
Garage stall, guys, go. Garage stall.
One thing you got to remember, we always talk about yesterday and what the race was like yesterday. These cars have less downforce in the rear than the Busch cars do. These cars have an inch less spoiler on the back than the Busch cars do. That makes these cars a lot looser to drive.
Scott Riggs, last week's pole sitter at Martinsville, and off to a really good start this season. Finds himself in the wall very early here.
Yeah, not off to a good start this day to the garage.
Yeah, I mean, he came in here 14th in points, not that far out of the top 10.
2 quick cautions. Watch the number 10 up high.
I've seen all weekend long, these Cup cars do not like to get high in entering the turn. They seem to like to enter low and slip up, but they don't like going in on the outside like that high.
Darrell, the minute he's turned that thing down into turn 3, you could see the back end come out.
Travis Quaffle just missing him.
This is when it gets really, really ugly, is right along here. He starts back down the hill, and man.
Travis Quaffle, 77, just getting by. Look at Jimmy Johnson in the 48 car, our points leader.
If you needed any further proof of no racing back to the caution flag, what happens behind Scott Riggs.
Just got in there a little too high. There's just not much grip out wide right there getting into 3.
Ricky Rudd right behind Riggs.
Darrell, that definitely was not a product of
Come on.
to take down force away.
I think he just was up out of the groove too far this early in the race.
Jason Leffler.
Outside wall is going to be up there still. Just stay on the bottom. Stay on the bottom. Keep coming. Keep coming. Watch him high. Good job. Woo!
But guys, take a look at this next angle right. Look at the 97 car, the blue car right in behind Elliott Sadler. He's sitting there. He's striking. All right, going down this corner. Going along here, and all of a sudden, out of the probably top of the corner of his eye, he says, "Oh no, not again! This guy can come back across the racetrack, and here he comes down. Oh me!" It's like it's not going to happen one more time. He couldn't stand another hit, could he, DW?
No, he's pretty hurt. That Bristol lick, and then what happened to him in the IROC race here on Friday? He's riding around there with some bruised up ribs.
Kurt Busch had fallen from 3rd a few weeks ago in the Nextel Cup standings to just barely being in the top 10 coming here to Texas. So 2 quick cautions. Let's go to Chris Myers for a Visa race break.
Thanks very much. This is a Visa race break from the Hollywood Hotel up in the Ford cutaway car with Jeff Hammond. And Jeff, it's early in this race, already a couple of cautions. It just seems like this year guys are driving harder, faster, and a lot earlier.
Well, I think that's one thing, Chris, but also you've got to add in the fact that today this track temperature is the hottest they've seen all week long. And depending upon how your car was yesterday afternoon's practice, what changes you made this morning, it may not be reacting the way you expected. Low air pressure, all these things kind of contribute. You get up out of that groove just a little bit. We've already seen there's no grip there early.
And you responded with Kurt Busch. We'll keep an eye on his physical condition, as we talked about that in the pre-race show. Also, Bobby Labonte, we saw him below the Hollywood Hotel moments before the start of the race. Looked very ill, woke up with a stomach problem, as Jeannie Zalasko reported. Had IVs all throughout the day.
Right.
Kenny Wallace gave us the impression that he would not be able to finish, but he's hoping to. There is a look at Bobby Labonte. Let's check in with Steve Burns. Steve?
Thanks, Chris. Early on, Casey Kane reporting that his number 9 car is just a little bit tight. Now, DW talked about what Casey Kane may have learned from yesterday, about what he needs to do to close the deal. Sammy Johns, the competition director at Evernham Motorsports, said for one thing, Casey Kane made his move early. He went around Reed Sorensen with 6 laps to go for the lead. So that's one of the lessons he may have learned yesterday. Don't wait until it's too late to make your move.
Thanks for that Visa race break. 10 laps complete. Jeremy Mayfield out in front of Ryan Newman, Jeff Gordon, Tony Stewart, and Casey Kane. And hope your pencil has an eraser on it. There are 5 drivers with more second-place finishes than Casey before their first win. I'll let you know.
I know who else learned from what Casey Kane had yesterday was his crew chief, Tommy Baldwin, made some changes on this 9 car based on how that Busch car was yesterday. Single file restart because we have no one that's a lap down here as we complete lap 11. You know, we talked about Greg Biffle in the 16 car who had to go to the rear of the field, and I've been watching him. He's been getting about 1 or 2 cars a lap, and now he's already up to the 24th position, gunning for more. Matt Yoker.
Biffle said, Larry Mack, under that caution, that he tried the high line. It was way too free when he went around the 22 car of Wimmer. He will stick to the bottom for now and let other guys like Casey Kane dust off that higher line.
Ryan Newman had to lift in turn 2, Darrell, and he's going to give up second spot.
Yeah, that's been a real trouble area over there. The guys get off the corner there, and they got to get up out of the gas. That opens the door for somebody to make that move. It also opens the door for somebody to run in the back of you if you're not careful.
Tony Stewart to the bottom, Casey Kane, and that yellow car, yes, that is Rusty Wallace.
Russell, he's up in there hustling it, isn't he, Larry? likes his old car today.
He was happy in yesterday's practice, had a good qualifying run, qualified 6th, and as we talked about, Casey Kane, a little bounce and rusty step too.
Yeah, he'll be wanting to run that yellow car every week.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. underneath Wallace. Moving up to 6th.
Boy, Ryan has got his hands full right now. Looks like his car is loose and he's falling back. Ryan Newman in the 2 car. There goes Dale Jr. by.
Dick Berggren on Newman.
Well, I talked to Ryan Newman's crew chief, Matt Borland, this morning, Mike, and he said that the real problem with their car is they can't seem to exactly figure out how to fix it. It'll be loose one place in the racetrack, win the same turn, next lap around, it'll be tight there. So when you've got the tight and loose at the same spot, how do you adjust for it? Right now, the problem with the car is that it is principally on the free side. Loose. Let's go to Matt.
2 laps ago, Jeff Gordon powered his way up to 2nd. Now, Steve Letarte, the car chief, told me before the race, lap 10. That's where they'll know how much work they'll have to do to this 24 car. Jeff says the car is a little loose. It was tough to tell in traffic, but he says he feels better behind somebody. If he was way out front, he says it may be too loose. Jeannie?
You know it's well documented how Dale Earnhardt Jr. feels about the spoiler change coming into this season. And in case it needed more documentation, he's already been on the radio talking about that, feeling that it's limited where he can actually run his car, saying with the spoiler difference, it's not like the Busch car, we don't have the choice. But adding to that, he's pretty happy with the car, and it's running good for him right now.
I agree, Jeannie. I mean, he's up there in 4th place right now, 5th place, and that car looks the best I've seen it look at the beginning of a race this year.
And if you listen to him off the corner like we've listened to some other drivers, he's able to stay in the throttle. He's not playing with the throttle right now.
That's what Ryan Newman's got to do. The cars like that, loose one place, tight another. The driver's got to make an adjustment.
Carl Edwards and Jeff Burton. You're riding with Burton underneath the number 5.
Remember, Carl Edwards in the 99 car, he's worked his way from the rear, and he was one of the cars that ended up making a pit stop back on lap 4, and now he's all the way back up to the 25th position.
2nd place, Casey Kane underneath Jeff Gordon.
And look how he pulls away from Jeff Gordon. That's not because he has more horsepower. It's because he can put his foot in the throttle and stay in it, just like we heard Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Seen Gordon's car on a number of occasions this year. Seemed like it starts off really good. He charges up to the front a little bit, and then all of a sudden the car goes bad on him, and he starts having to backpedal. It appears that's what is happening right now.
Well, we just saw Tony Stewart in the 20 car go by Jeff Gordon. Now Dale Earnhardt Jr. goes by him. So Stewart moves to 3rd. Dale Earnhardt Jr. moves to 4th. Their cars are so good on the bottom of the racetrack.
Here's Matt with more.
And Gordon's starting to fade back now into 4th. His cars start to work their way around him. He just told Robbie Loomis last time by, it is pretty tight right now. Will not turn like he wanted it too early.
Of course, Matt, that's probably only going to get worse because if the fuel load burns off, well, rubber gets on this racetrack, the front's going to want to slide more and more.
Yeah, and if you work the right front tire, you build up the air pressure in that right front, it's going to push more as well, Larry.
Results of our first virtual crew chief question from Singular, Richard Childress Racing. Can they score their first Texas win? 4 out of 5 of you don't think so.
And the other thing, the issue here is we've seen a little bit of a tire issue on and off here all weekend. You start abusing that right front tire, I hope he has one of those, what they're calling now, bead blowers. It's a brake blower that they direct directly at the bead on the right front tire to try to keep the pressure from building up and take care of that right front tire.
Casey Kane, 0.6 of a second back, but 0.3 of a second a lap quicker than Mayfield and catching him.
And we're riding with the 3rd Evernham car here right now. This is Bill Elliott, qualified back in 15th position. He has now cracked the top 10. He's up in 10th position. And we've been following the Greg Biffle story. Remember, had to go to the rear of the field because of going to a backup car. He just went by Jimmy Johnson. He is now up to the 17th position, less than 25 laps into this race. He's halfway through the field.
That's the car in which Biffle won at California, race 2 of this season.
First half of that mountain's pretty easy to climb. It's that next half it gets tough.
It gets a little steeper.
Oh, round goes somebody on the back.
Leffler. Everybody scatters.
Hang on to it as straight as you can off the brake.
Somebody got into him. I couldn't tell who it was.
this will definitely be, I think, the caution that cars like Ryan Newman, Jeff Gordon were looking for. Now that we're getting close to halfway through a run, their cars were not driving very good, and they were going backwards.
I'm hearing we might see a driver change in this little hot rod here before too long.
Jason Leffler brings out the third caution of the day. Lap 23. Here's a look. Oh,
He may have got a little help from Robbie Gordon in the 7 car. Looked like he was a little free anyhow, and then, of course, Robbie in the throttle.
What we see over there is, and it's hard to tell from just watching it, is guys are having to lift a little bit because they get to pushing off that turn. When they do, if somebody's right up on your back bumper, they just can't slow down that quickly. You hear him playing with the throttle. Playing with the throttle, the guy behind you is wide open. He's going to hit you.
Hang on to it straight if you can off the brake.
He almost saved it from the inside wall.
Pits are open. Here they come, Matt.
And the Dodge boys lead him down as Jeff Gordon peels off. Now Robbie Loomis will try to fix the 24 car with an air pressure ½ pound adjustment in the right rear tire. Meanwhile, Tony Stewart started off loose, gone to the tight side. Shaggy Larson already completed the track bar adjustment on the 20 car. Jeannie Zelasco.
Track bar adjustment as well for the 8 car of Dale Earnhardt Jr. As I just mentioned, very happy with this car. So really just that adjustment and the 4 tires. Steve?
Jeannie, Jeremy Mayfield said he's just a little bit tight off of 2, neutral otherwise. Casey Kane says the back is sliding out, a log jam on pit road. Sticker tires for Casey Kane.
4 cars got together right at the start-finish line, and somebody lost a wheel.
Now they're dodging tires and wheels. Dale Jarrett just gets by it. And what that log jam really jammed up Tony Stewart and Jeff Gordon. They drove all the way out in the grass to go around cars that had just stopped on pit road.
I've never seen a pit road look like that with all the cars and wheels and everything. That's amazing.
Cars in the back of the line trying to get into their space. Cars that are finished repair trying to get out of their space. Log jam's a good word for it.
We had 40 cars on pit road at one time this early in the race.
Jack says the same thing. So I've never seen anything like that in my life.
What a mess.
Jason Leffler pulled out in front of Terry Labonte. Watch the 44, who does not even get into his pit. Wham.
Leffler just running the side of him. Now here they come. Got to whoa, stop, go, out in the grass.
This looks like the crowd trying to get to Highway 114 in about 4 hours from now.
And Darrell, we talk about this. There you see the loose tire and wheel. We talk about this every week. That's on the crew chief and the spotter's shoulders to let that driver know that many cars are coming down pit road.
Go on, all clear, go on, 4,000, 4,000.
Skirting the 20 all the way out in the grass.
You heard Pete Rondo talking to Dale Jr. He sounded pretty excited.
Good reason to be.
Jason Leffler has taken his car to the garage. Sterling Marlin. Last time around, picked up points for leading a lap. So did Kyle Petty.
Happy birthday, babe!
There's a great idea. Let's crank it up.
Casey Kane came off turn 2 over there, and that baby shot up the track with him. I'm sure he's trying to catch his breath right now.
And Sterling Marlin loses the lead to Jeremy Mayfield.
And how Sterling took the lead was his crew decided to go with 2 right side tires only. He tried that yesterday in the Busch race. Didn't work too bad for him. He thought he'd try it again here early in the race and find out what he would do today.
Got to get that almighty track position. That's all the crews talk about, track position.
See, Greg Biffle in the 16 car, he's going by Michael Waltrip in the 15. That will now move him into the 12th position. Remember, starting at the rear of the field, less than 30 laps, he's almost made it to the top 10.
That's that old California car. It looks like she's hunting here.
Well, he moves underneath Casey Kane, who started the 3rd. Here's Steve in Kane's pit.
Mike just heard Casey Kane tell Tommy Baldwin the sticker tires wouldn't turn for me when I got down into turn 1.
Well, it's probably a product of sticker tires like Jeff Hammond talked about also a while ago. They really lower the air pressures down on these tires for a long run.
Yeah, that makes all the sense in the world, because that thing went down in turn 1 and she shot up the hill.
Jimmy Johnson made 2 pit stops under that caution, Dick.
One of them was really, really long, Mike, and both pit stops were for the same reason. The car had been very tight, and they tried to pull the spring rubbers out of the left rear. They wouldn't pull. This is the handle that was on one of those spring rubbers, this guy with the green on it, and this is what's left of one of those spring rubbers. They had to go in with an electric saw and cut it out. They had to get those spring rubbers out in order to get the tightness out of the automobile. They got one out. They still got one in there. They'd like to get out.
Johnson back to 33rd.
The spring rubbers, they put them in increments. You could have one spring rubber cut in about 4 pieces, and you ease them out as the race goes on.
Jeff Green and Bobby Labonte.
I could
Scott Wimmer in a 22
You could close your eyes and know that Bobby Labonte was going to be in it.
Bobby Labonte was ill to start the day and ill-tempered.
25 car got into. He's coming to pit road. There's the 18.
We anticipate, you know, they'll try to fix this car and get it back out there. You see Brian Vickers in a 25 car, but Bobby Labonte, 6 races this year, 4 DNFs, engines and wrecks.
Big wrecks.
That's a shame, Scott Wimmer. I talked to that group this morning, the 22 car. They felt like they had the makings of one of the better cars they've had this year, and there you see everybody's nose crunched in, be going to the garage area for repairs, I'm sure.
Brian Vickers had a part of that, and he wants to go behind the wall. You see him signaling.
43 here. Mark Martin right alongside, or near alongside. Jeff slips up in front of Mark and didn't quite have Mark cleared.
Mark gets off and Mark backs off.
Darrell, that's right there coming off turn 2. We saw it just a little while ago with Robbie Gordon in that group, and we saw it 4 or 5 times yesterday.
It looked like Bobby Labonte ran into the back of Kyle Busch. Just another chain reaction collision. Bobby Hamilton Jr. got part of that as well.
Yeah, he got big damage, so did 22.
Carl Edwards and Robbie Gordon just squeaked through.
And, you know, you can look at it and you can say, well, why didn't Mark back off? That's a point over there where there's nothing you can do. That guy in the 43, Jeff Green, he probably had to pedal it a little bit. Mark got into him.
I said Carl Edwards. Actually, that was Casey Mears who just slipped through there in the green car. You could see Mark pedal it just a bit to try to let Green straighten himself out, but do that, Darrell, don't you risk getting hit.
You're already free right there anyway as you come off that corner, and so a little bitty bump like Mark gave to Jeff Green sends him around.
We've seen about 10 cars at the rear of the field make a pit stop, including Jimmy Johnson. Another major adjustment on that 48 Lowe's car.
Dick Berggren.
Jimmy Johnson came on the radio just before he pitted, and pulling the spring rubber had made what he called a huge difference, much better. So they've made some more adjustments to try to help him still more.
And it just sounds like this racetrack is so slick, these cars are just really pushing and sliding the nose.
And what got Joe Nemechek back with those cars was it was his tire on the last caution that rolled across pit road. He had to restart at the tail end of the longest line. 30 laps, 4 cautions.
Under our 4th caution here at the Texas Motor Speedway, this is who all was involved in that wreck moments ago. Kyle Busch, Bobby Labonte, who came in 37th in points and also came in with an upset stomach. You see Wimmer, Vickers, Hamilton Jr., Jeff Green. Hope they all save money on car insurance. Here's how it happened. As you see Jeff Green into the wall, Labonte soon follows him afterwards. And so far, let's check in with Jeannie Zalasko, who's with Bobby Labonte.
Oh, Bobby, he came into this thing ill. Now it's a sickness of a different variety. Just sitting back here watching them take apart your car. I guess first and foremost, how are you doing? And then take us through what happened.
Yeah, I'm doing fine. I was loose on that run, and I went to turn the switch off, you know, coming off the 2 there. Hit the switch, I looked up, and somebody spun, and everybody's checking up. And I run to the back of the 5 car, which was my fault. I just didn't get out the gas in time, but I was just on the high side, just trying to get my car getting going again. But you know, my fault. I ran into Kyle, but I don't know what started the wreck. I missed that part, but something happened down there, it looked like, and I run the back of him, and I'm sure I screwed his day up. Apologize for that, and screwed our day up too, which isn't as bad as what you know. He was probably going to miss the wreck.
I know you're back here, you're watching, they're doing their best to get you back out. It's so early in this one. Will you go back out, or will Kenny take the seat for you?
Oh, I'll go back out. You know, I just got to say one thing. I'm not sure about the small spoiler right now. It looked like it's very impressive.
You're not alone. Chris?
All right, thanks, Jeannie and Bobby. So Kenny Wallace standing by, but Bobby says he'll get back out there if he can, and physically okay for the most part of the safety. In fact, all the drivers involved in that wreck. Let's check out the State Farm Safety Report with Jeff Hammond.
We're down here below the Hollywood Hotel, the Ford Cutaway car. And a few years ago, NASCAR decided they wanted to keep all the parts and pieces in the event of an accident attached to this race car the best way they could. So they come up with an idea called tethers. You'll notice right on this wheel assembly, they try to tether it to the car. Even though it's bolted on, they put an extra safety strap to try to keep this whole wheel assembly attached to the race car. Also, the hood assembly. You notice here's a tether for the hood. There's usually two on each side to keep the hood from coming off the car and flying up in the grandstands. Another part of the car they worry about a lot of times is the deck lid. And you'll notice it also has tethers on it. Look right around and you'll see it. This is this tether. It helps to keep the deck lid attached to the main body of the race car in the event of a serious accident. We don't want these parts and pieces flying up in the grandstand with our fans.
Thanks, Jeff, for that State Farm Safety Report. Jeremy Mayfield has led the most laps today and is currently still leading. Mike?
Let's add Travis Quaffle to the cars involved in that accident. He has gone to the garage. Here are where the Dodge Chargers are running. Mayfield and Marlin and Newman presently in the top 5.
You hear a lot of complaining recently about the small rear spoiler. Let me tell you what happened. They test these cars in the wintertime. They test them in the springtime. It's cool. The tracks have got a lot of grip. Drivers go and test, and they say, hey, it's not that bad. I think it's going to be all right. As the summer gets here and the tracks get slicker, you need rear downforce. And that's what's happening to these guys. As we go into the summer, they're going to be squealing about these rear spoilers.
Every driver has his issues, and Dale Jr.'s right now is not about the rear spoiler. It's the other end of the car.
Right, no more. But I'm getting beat really bad out here down the straightaway on the breed starts and all that stuff. And we need to, I know we are trying, but we need to fix it soon. Charlotte can't come soon enough.
Now, the rule change is what's affecting him. The gear change. The gear rule has killed DEI's engines.
We talked to Dale Jr. earlier.
We need to grow larger as a company. We're really busting at the seams as far as room and how we can become larger and be more productive. We need more building space to be able to have a larger engine program, be able to have a more organized engine program. Same for the fabrication department. We're busting at the seams in the buildings themselves. It's kind of like anything else. If you're going to do it, you might as well do it all the way. And we need to do it all the way on a lot of things. There's a lot of things we're trying to just get by with a little bit here and a little bit there, where we need the whole program to be effective.
38 laps complete, 35 cars on the lead lap. The other 8 are in the garage. Green flag. Jeremy Mayfield leads Tony Stewart. Kurt Busch, Sterling Marlin, and Ryan Newman did not get a good restart. Rusty Wallace catches him and passes him going into 1.
And Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 8 car was going to make it 3 wide going off into turn 1. And you see right there, Greg Biffle, we've been talking about him since the last drop of the green flag. He now moves well into the top 10 up there battling for the 7th spot.
Lead change. Tony Stewart dives underneath Mayfield entering turn 3.
Tony's car, I don't know that it has moved off of that white line through the middle of the corners, Dale. He's hugging right around the bottom.
Well, through the years, the Gibbs cars have been just absolutely strong on the 1.5 miles. Charlotte, Atlanta, and that doesn't surprise me. They get that package working, that thing will go.
Dale Jr. works underneath Ryan Newman. This is for 6th place. He's going to drag Biffle with him as we go to the garage. And Jeannie.
Petty car is trying to spend the past few weeks making a resurgence, but Jeff Green back here, you can't get a lot done, unfortunately.
No, it's our Cheerios Dodge is really tore up. About as bad as I've seen one so far this year, anyway. And I don't know, Mark just turned me around. We had him hung up on the outside, and I was pushing a little bit, so I had to get off the gas a little bit. But he's got a throttle spring too, and he can get off the gas too. So I got a lot of respect for Mark Martin. I'm not down on him, but he's smarter than that too.
All right, thank you for the time, guys.
That's what we were talking about. You know, he's pushing a little bit. He's got to lift a little bit. Mark's right on his bumper. Make contact.
Darrell, we've been watching Ryan Newman right here in the 12 cars. We're riding with Kevin Harvick. Remember, that car was not driving very good. Ryan Newman's was not at the drop of the green flag. I think they've made adjustments, but you can see that car. The back end of the car is not settled down as Casey Kane in the 9 going around him on the high side.
I think those new tires, I've seen that. We've seen it on the 9 car before, Larry. Put new tires on that car. They're not too good on the restart. But once they get a few laps on them, the pressures come up, that thing takes off. And man, I just saw our buddy Jimmy Johnson. He was all the way up against the wall down in 3 and 4.
This is only the second Texas Cup race that Tony Stewart has led, and he is driving away. Yesterday, driving for Kevin Harvick in the Busch race, he got turned around in the inside wall, and his race was over almost before it started. How about last year's winner, Elliott Sadler? 16th place, just ahead of his Robert Yates teammate Dale Jarrett, back there right behind Bill Elliott, and ahead of Jamie McMurray. Steve Byrd.
Mike, the 38 team tested here recently, and they were not happy at all with how the test went. This race car right now, it's loose in, tight in the middle, and loose off. Elliott said it's the worst it's been since we've been here. On the last pit stop, they put a spring rubber in the left rear spring to help the race car. It's helped a little bit.
I think it's hotter here than it's been all weekend. That's one thing. But remember, we didn't hear a lot about Elliott Sadler here last year until about the last 100 miles of the race. They adjusted up on that thing all day long and got him in a winning position.
Tell you what, our 2002 winner from the race here, we talked about him at the beginning of the show. Matt Kenseth didn't have a very good qualifying run, then had to go all the way back to the rear of the field because of a transmission change, fought a vibration yesterday. Matt has already moved up to the 12th position, so he's about to crack the top 10. Good run for him with all these cautions.
Second place, Kurt Busch. Driving hurt, crashing 4 weeks in a row, including Friday's International Race of Champions event here.
I think the biggest thing Kurt feels like is it has to be much safer at the front of this pack right here.
I think he and Tony both. Steve?
Mike, I checked with Jimmy Fennick this morning on that 97 car. They made a lot of changes. They changed springs, track bar, nose weight. Jimmy said the car was not real good yesterday. Let's go to Matt Yoakum.
One of the fastest cars, Steve, on the racetrack belongs to 16 of Greg Biffle. Enters Texas second in points, crashed his primary car in the final practice session. The car was loose early. They made an air pressure adjustment. The car has gone to the tight side, but he is very fast up to 7th.
Next week, the first springtime Cup race at Phoenix, and you'll see it in prime time on Fox, 7:30 Eastern Time. There from Phoenix International Raceway, under the lights.
It's one of my favorite racetracks. Always love going to Phoenix. That little dog leg in the back there makes that mile racetrack fun to drive.
Saturday night, under the lights. Still trying to figure out how to get to Stafford Springs, Connecticut for the Spring Sizzler on Sunday, the big modified race up there. It's a long commute, Darrell.
I don't see how you're going to do that.
No. Like to.
Want to.
See Matt Kenseth in the 17 car. We were just talking about him. He's going side by side with Michael Waltrip in the 15 car. This is a battle for 11th. See Michael working the high side through 1 and 2. Gets that good run on the high side off 2.
Greg Biffle in a fast car from the back. That was the fast car. That was the bullet they brought to race at Texas. But Biffle forced into a backup.
You know, it's not bad to have a backup car that the last time you ran it, it won the race.
And I've been talking to that group, Doug, Richard, Petrucci, the last few races. It's like, where's the Fontana car? They say, well, we've been carrying it for a backup. We know it's a good race car. But the car that you just saw under the car cover he wrecked yesterday, in practice yesterday morning before he blew that right front tire, it was almost in a league of its own. But this car he's got here now looks close to that.
Casey Mears, Robbie Gordon.
It's a little action. There's a lot of action right in this little pack right here. They were 3 wide going down into turn 3 there a moment ago.
Now, Casey Mears, a 41 car. This is a backup car for him. He cut down a right front tire right as practice started on Friday, but since he presented his backup car with a race engine for qualifying, he was able to start where he qualified. Biggest thing Robbie Gordon and the 7 car is looking for, they came out here and tested. Remember, a lot of engine woes for this team this year, especially at the higher speed racetrack. He just wants to see the checkered flag today.
On the left of your screen, the 4th place battle.
And I think Sterling Marlin in the 40 is starting to lose a little bit of ground. Remember, he changed just those 2 right side tires on the last pit stop. I think the big thing they were looking for is maybe another caution 20 or 30 laps in this run, Darrell.
He did that last week at Martinsville. Got him some track position, got him a good finish. Trying it again today.
Here's again. Going after Robbie Gordon. 21st place at stake here. They're running about half a second a lap slower than the leaders in this battle. They're about 15 seconds off the lead. Held by Tony Stewart and Kurt Busch. Look how they're looking for safe harbor by driving away from the rest of the field. And with their recent history, who can blame them? In the first 32 laps, we had 4 quick caution flags. That's what happens when you bring NASCAR out to the Wild, Wild West.
The Samsung Radioshack 500 on Fox is brought to you by State Farm. Great service, great race. That's why 40 million drivers trust State Farm.
Welcome back to Texas. Take a look at the notables here that are on the move, points-wise. As we look currently in this race, Jeff Gordon has slipped. He was 9th, now down to 10th.
What you're seeing right now, just the way how close this whole field still is early in the season, and how if you can have a big race, have a very successful race, you can move up quite well. As we see the 40 car, Sterling Marlin, he was slipping back through the field a minute ago, Chris, and he's headed on pit road now.
Sterling Marlin hoping to stay in that points race. Steve Burns will have the latest on that. Steve?
Yeah, Chris, it is in fact a flat tire for Sterling Marlin. Had the lead for a while here early on that 2-tire strategy, but it is a flat tire. They will go ahead and change all 4 on Sterling's Dodge. Tough break for him here early in lap 61.
All right, thanks, Steve. So Kurt Busch, by the way, started 19th up to 2nd, and as Matt Kenseth makes a move on Jeff Gordon. Kenseth battling for that 9th and 10th spot. Tony Stewart, you know, last week the highest finishing Gibbs car was Jason Leffler at 12th, and Tony Stewart leading here.
But both of the Gibbs cars, the 20 and the 18 of Bobby Labonte, ran extremely well at Martinsville before they had their problems. And, you know, talked to Greg Zipadelli earlier this week, and he was really, you know, kind of uplifted. Even though they had the wheel problem, they felt like they were having a really strong run. Here's another guy that's working his way up through the field. Is Kevin Harvick. Started back in the middle of the field, and he's now worked his way up. He's the top 10.
Harvick and Kenseth working their way up. Jeff Gordon working his way down. Matt has the latest on that. Matt?
You can see the 29 car Harvick just down on the bottom line. Jeff Gordon went way wide on entry. He is really loose in. And really, Jeff, as I quote, says he is tight on exit. They are back to exactly how they were in the final practice session, fighting the loose, tight condition. Still thinking about some different adjustments to try the next stop. Keep working on it, not giving up, but they are fighting a struggling race car today. Mike?
The adjustment right now is watch your mirror, because here comes the 42, Jamie McMurray, who slides on by up to 11th place.
Quite a recovery for him. Started back in 31st. Remember when we had that first caution there on lap 2 when Dave Blaney spun, Jamie McMurray had to go down through the grass, made 2 pit stops. So nice recovery by Donnie Wingo in that 42 group.
Tony Stewart's lead 1 second now on Kurt Busch, with Greg Biffle 4 seconds off the lead. There is the gap, and while Busch was closing, now it appears pretty constant. Darrell, who can blame Tony Stewart and Kurt Busch as Rusty Wallace and Casey Kane battled here for 5th place. With the 4 weeks that Busch has had, and with Tony's troubles yesterday, get me away from everybody.
Yeah, I heard a lot of reports this week about wheel problems, and in fact, I think there are some issues there, Larry, with wheels that these guys discovered after Tony's failure at Martinsville. So, you know, when that happens to a driver, it's in the back of his mind all day long.
I know we've been watching this side-by-side battle for 5th with Casey Kane in the 9, Rusty Wallace in the 2, but we're riding with the fastest car on the racetrack about the last 4 or 5 laps, Michael Waltrip in the 15, and Dick, he's moved up to the high side of the racetrack.
Michael has had a great day so far, Larry. Started in the 21st position, so he has passed a bunch of cars. But is, as usual, Michael's not saying much on the radio. About lap 39 or so, he said the front end of the car wasn't gripping as well as it was in Atlanta, but he's found that new line, and it obviously is working well for him.
Well, he had a good car at Atlanta, and I was watching him too, Larry. He found that high line. That's how he closed down on the back of the 9 car here in such a hurry. Now he's dropped it back down to the bottom in 3 and 4 and real high in 1 and 2.
I want to comment and follow up on Darrell's gear room combination. If you look right here, this car is only turning at about 8,900 or 9,000. You talked about the rule change at the beginning of the year. What NASCAR did is mandated basically the gears that all the cars had to run in the rear end and the transmission. Well, you might say, well, now, wait a minute. If everyone had to do that, why would it be a disadvantage? It's because your engine package is wrapped around a certain gear. These guys were turning 9,600 RPMs last year at DEI. I think that's maybe why the gear rule affected them more.
I believe you're right, and of course it takes time. If you develop that package over a period of time, it's going to take a period of time to come up with a new one.
It could be intake manifolds, it could be headers, it could be any given thing that you have the flexibility to work with within the rule.
I think it's actually all those things. I mean, an engine turning 9 grand is not too bad. You know, that's kind of standard. One, it'll turn 10 and live. Now, that took some development.
Waltrip gets a run on Casey Kane. Makes the pass for 6th place. Kane comes right back in the middle of the corner, though.
Anything that high line pays off coming off. You get so much more momentum, get a good run down the straightaway. That's where it pays dividends.
And that's what happened. Johnny Sauter has taken his car to the garage. Hermie Sadler off the pace has made a pit stop and come back out, losing laps. And Travis Quaffle back in the race with front end crash damage. Stewart has expanded his lead on Busch. The Home Depot Chevrolet now out front by 1.2 seconds over that blue Irwin Tool Chevy. And here comes Greg Biffle, 4.2 seconds off the lead. Big day for the Coca-Cola racing family right now with Tony Stewart, Kurt Busch, Greg Biffle 1, 2, 3, and Michael Waltrip number 5 on the board at 76 laps, 258 to go. Cars on the lead lap right now. Sterling Marlin in position for the free pass, at least until Tony Stewart, if he can get past Kyle Petty, put Kyle 1 lap down.
Sterling would definitely, in the 40 car, remember, had to make that unscheduled pit stop about 15 or 20 laps ago. He would love to see a caution where he would be in position. Now, what Sterling would love to see, though, is this race go another 10 or 15, 20 laps without a caution, because everyone would start having to make green flag pit stops. But there's the man we've been talking about ever since the pre-race, Greg Biffle. Matt, we have a caution.
Saw the 66 car, I think it was, down on the apron going into 3. I think that may be some of the debris.
But that'll definitely help Sterling Marlin, because as you just mentioned, Mike, he had not, Tony Stewart, the leader in the 20, had not quite lapped Kyle Petty, so Sterling will get the free pass. There's the debris. It's one of those spring rubbers we've been talking about.
Curious.
Spring rubber.
Is that? Well, that is a big benefit for Robbie Gordon, Boris Said, and Kyle Petty, who were 3 cars in danger of being lapped by Tony Stewart. And Sterling Marlin will get the free pass. Johnny Sauter has just returned from the garage area back in the race.
48 car can't get their spring rubber out. Some other cats out there, he loses one. It's just kind of the way it goes.
Well, maybe these boys have behaved this time on pit road, because we have 32 cars on the lead lap, and it'll be probably all 32 of them on pit road for 4 tires, fuel, and adjustments.
And an attaboy for Terry Labonte, past winner of this race, who got blocked out of his pit in that big jam up at start finish. Had to come around, restart last. He is still on the lead lap in 27th.
Just a special grandstand over on the back straightaway today for all the troops that are back from Iraq over from Fort Hood. I thought that was pretty special that the Speedway made arrangements to have those guys here today. Obviously pulling for their favorite car, Joe Nemechek's 01 car.
Well, we're happy to have them here.
Right there in turn 3, yeah, quite a view right there.
This place, so you look at this joint. I mean, there's 200,000 people here. You know what, Larry? Just think about a few years ago, you and I going to the racetrack, 43 cars start the race, maybe 50, 75,000 people. Look where our sport is today.
You could not take a shoehorn and put anybody else in the infield.
All right, the pits will be open, and Tony Stewart leads them down. Matt?
Back on lap 62, Tony Stewart said the car was a little tight and a little loose on exit. Moments ago, he told Zippy, just fix the center. Don't worry about the exit. They're going to try another track bar adjustment. As the 16 is in, they're going to go for a wedge adjustment. He was tight as well. Steve Burns?
Kurt Busch said his car is just a little twitchy, a little loose, Matt. They'll drop air on the left side tires. He also got a headache powder in his water. He's still sore. Jeannie?
Well, Dale Earnhardt Jr. at one point saying, we need to loosen this up till I can't stand it anymore, because that's how the car gets better. Change of philosophy, because now it's so loose going in. It's having a hard time turning in the middle. Dick?
Michael Waltrip just had a great pit stop. He parked a little bit to the back end of his pit area because the number 43 isn't out anymore. That gave him a lot of room to get around Ryan Newman's car. 4 tires, the only major changes to air pressure. Michael said the car is skating the nose a little bit. Maybe that's good. He is running well.
You see the race off pit road, Michael Waltrip, that group gaining 2 positions. You see Jeremy Mayfield losing 3. But this right here, Rusty Wallace lost 3 positions. He was dodging a bouncing tire around pit road. That right there, you see the time on pit road, including the pit stop. You see why Michael gained positions, as well as Matt Kenseth, and the losers, Jeremy Mayfield, Rusty Wallace. We know why Rusty Wallace lost positions, because trying to dodge that tire.
I believe one lead lap car stayed out on track, the number 4 of Mike Wallace. We'll check on that when we come back.
Cha-ching, 5 points.
The Samsung Radioshack 500 on Fox is brought to you by Visa, proud sponsor of NASCAR. By Dodge, you can take life as it comes, or you can grab life by the horns. Dodge. By Napa Auto Parts. Napa, get the good stuff. And by Rocky Mountain Cold Coors Light, refreshing race fans everywhere.
Tony Stewart leads Greg Biffle. And earlier in the week, Carl Edwards said, hey, in this race, our strategy with Roush teammate is to follow Greg Biffle. But he started a backup car. He's worked his way up to the front.
Yeah, Greg Biffle has got a really strong ride. You got to realize something, Chris. That car he's driving is the car he ran in California, won with there. So he knows what he's got going on here. And he and his crew chief, Doug Richard, put the car back just like the one that was so fast in practice early on. It's working well right now.
Under our 5th caution, we've had 8 different lead changes, 7 leaders. It's been a lot of slipping and sliding on a track that's supposed to have a lot of grip. That's Dave Blaney bringing out the first caution. Came on lap 4. And then notice Scott Riggs a little bit high here, causing another caution to come out. Lap 23, Jason Leffler and the FedEx car was running 23rd at the time. And then Jeff Green, who was earlier involved with a spin here, creating a wreck that involved some 7 cars total. Bobby Labonte was involved in that as well. You see the damage done to his car. He came into this race with a stomach flu, said he hopes to get back out there. And hand me your nose. How many times do you hear that happen? It's been that kind of race so far. Tony Stewart leading Greg Biffle and Michael Waltrip. And let's head upstairs for the restart.
One fellow who won't be near the front of the field, though, is Rusty Wallace. Non-compliant refueling, the ruling from NASCAR. He'll start tail end.
Well, you have a catch can man at the back of the car that has to be engaged with his catch can to catch the excess fuel. He was not engaged as they were fueling the car because they knew it was going to take almost 2 cans. They knew the first can was not going to overflow, but he has to be in position. So tail into the field for Rusty Wallace, and that's with 33 cars on the lead lap.
They have lightened up on some of those rules. That was a drive-through. Now that's the end of the longest line. There's 4 or 5 of those rules they just missed.
Tony Stewart leads Greg Biffle, Michael Waltrip, Kurt Busch, Matt Kenseth, Casey Kane, and Jeremy Mayfield on this restart.
So we now have 2 of the Roush cars that started at the tail end of the field in the top 5. Greg Biffle in the 16, and now Matt Kenseth in the 17 and 5th.
Mike Wallace did stay on track to lead a lap and get 5 bonus points in the Lucas Oil Chevy, then made his pit stop, so he's back at the back of the pack, and things cycle around. And once again, Tony is taking off.
Yes, he is. And Larry, I don't think there's any question that when Jack Roush and Robert Yates married their engine programs together, it improved the performance of the Roush cars particularly. I think they had great handling cars. They had a good aero package. Now they have the engine to go with it.
And that engine, it'll help you through the corners and down the straightaways. And Boris said in a 36 car making his second start of 2005, he just brushed the wall down in turn 1 and 2.
Sometimes the cars can be a little treacherous on new tires.
3 Dodges in a dogfight. Casey Kane winning that one temporarily over Mayfield, but look at Biffle for the lead turn 2.
That car is so good.
Right there is where he's really got to be. Watching him, he's just so good off the corner where everybody else seems to have
right there with you.
Lift. He's able to keep going.
Michael Waltrip had a look. Look at how twitchy Stewart's car is.
He's kind of caught in between the, he's the car between Biffle and Michael, and that's no air at all on his car, so it's going to move around a little bit.
But
you're clear.
What's so great about this racetrack. We've been coming here for 8 years, and you can run at the bottom, you can run at the top. We have side-by-side racing. Greg Biffle from last to first in less than 100 laps.
Yeah, but look at old Michael Curtis. Come on, buddy, he's doing it.
And here comes Casey Kane with Jamie McMurray in tow.
Jamie McMurray in the 42 car started way back in the field, had problems early when he had to dodge a wreck on the front stretch. Now he's up there solidly in the top 10.
We said 5 drivers had more second place finishes than Casey Kane before getting their first win. Kane has 6. Lenny Pond of Ettrick, Virginia has 7. And then got that big win at Talladega, one of the 14 straight drivers to win the 500. Bill Elliott, Sterling Marlin, Harry Gannon. We didn't think you'd get James Hilton, who had 12 second place finishes before coming from 7 laps down to get his first win at Richmond, Virginia.
And Darrell, we had Casey Kane on our trackside show Friday night on Speed. He said no one knows, regardless of those second place finishes, what a win would mean for this race team.
Jamie McMurray, another Dodge, has moved up into the top half dozen. Jeannie?
Yeah, and I can't remember how many times this season I have heard Jamie McMurray say the car is near perfect. That may have been the one and only time I did hear it. Coming into the pit, just getting a track bar adjustment, and they're very happy that the tires look great, but they've already begun the discussion for the next pit stop, saying, maybe we should take about a pound out of each and every tire for more grip on this track. Matt?
Tony Stewart has faded just past the 42 car. Now he's in the 6th position. Now he hasn't said anything on the radio since their pit stop, but keep in mind, historically this team is a late starter at the beginning of a run. Their car traditionally always better near the end. They just take off not quite as fast as some of the others. They usually come back to Tony. They're going to see if that happens again.
Matt, I'm going to tell you a car that's on the move right now, though. Jimmy Johnson in the 48 car. We saw him and Chad Knaus make numerous pit stops early in the race, major adjustments. Now he just went by Jeff Burton for the 12th position, so he's knocking on the door of the top 10, our points leader.
I think they took that rubber out of the left rear, and then they had to adjust to that setup. It was like it changed it dramatically.
They jumped the fence and had to come back.
Casey Mears is also close on to the top 10, 4.7 seconds off the lead, but his lap time's just about a 1/10 or 2 off what Greg Biffle is running right now.
And just remember, we talked a little while ago, this is a backup car for Casey Mears. Crashed in practice after he cut a tire down. This is a good run for Casey. Jimmy Elliott's that Ganassi team, they need a good run.
Now they need a good finish. That car is fast every week. They just seem to find trouble.
Need to find that checkered flag. See Elliott Sadler in the 38 car goes by Ryan Newman in the 12. Ryan Newman they cannot get that car right. That's a battle for 19th position, no longer a battle.
I think the answer to this singular question depends on when you ask it, whether the bottom line or the high group is working better. Right now, the high groove works for Casey Mears.
Daryl, I think the very first few laps with the racetrack sitting all night long from the Busch race, the second groove maybe didn't have that good a grip, but now that we're almost 100 laps into it, I think we're seeing a lot of cars move up there and giving it grip now.
Guys are, they're reluctant to go high. You've seen guys get in trouble like the 10 car did early on. So that takes away some of the confidence of getting up there. Once you do it a few laps, you say, hey, it's not that bad. It's not like jumping off in the water.
You're riding with Ricky Rudd, who's presently in 10th place in the Air Force Ford. Here's Matt.
Mike, he's been hovering just outside the top 10 most of the race in the 11th through 13th range. They've been going back and forth, but the biggest is that Ricky needs the long run. He was tied earlier, trying to become the 17th different driver to win a race with the legendary Wood brothers from Stewart, Virginia.
Back on track, Bobby Labonte and Brian Vickers, both involved in that lap 32 crash. And here comes Casey Mears around Ricky Rudd for ninth.
He has found a groove with that 41 car because, yeah, he just moved into the top 10. And watch him right here. Goes off into turn 1 all the way to the top of the black, right against the gray. There's only one more groove up there.
And top of your screen, Jeff Gordon almost got a bump from Jeff Burton coming off the corner. They got real close together. Burton and his teammate Kevin Harvick capitalized.
But that front bumper, these noses are so low. You stick that under the guy in front of you with that small rear spoiler, it's going to make him get up out of the gas or he's going to wreck.
Tell you what, this is a good run marched to the front by Jeff Burton.
Wide open, boys.
The 31 car, he started back in 41st position. Those guys, I know I talked to Kevin Hamlin last night. We see 3 wide off turn 2 right there with those 3 guys. A lot of changes on that 31 car this morning.
Mark Martin in that retro paint scheme on his Jack Roush Ford. Number 6 had one of the cars to beat in yesterday's Busch race here, but had a flat tire, fell from contention. Here's Steve.
Mike, Casey Kane is concerned about his right rear tire. He just radioed crew chief Tommy Baldwin. It says the right rear feels weird. A couple seconds passed and he radioed back and said, I might have a flat right rear tire.
And we've really not had a lot of right rear problems. We've had some right front problems, and a lot of times if you have right rear problems, he loses another position. Jamie McMurray at 42 is possibly a cut tire with a slow leak.
Greg Biffle started 41st in a backup car. Matt Kenseth has moved up. Boy, Kevin Harvick's having all kinds of trouble getting past Boris Said. He finally does, but lost a lot of room as you see the lead that Greg Biffle has on Michael Waltrip. Mark it at 3/4 of a second.
Everybody's said, we have these cookie cutter racetracks, these 1.5 miles, and this is anything but. Texas is. It flattens out a bunch. It loses its banking coming off the corner. And, the way it drives, both corners are a little different. I don't find this thing in Texas being the same as anywhere we go. It's really unique.
I mean, Mike, every racetrack has its own personality. That'd be like saying every golf course is the same because they got 18 holes.
Right.
All these racetracks are different. They have different characteristics to them. You set the cars up different. You drive them differently. It's just, they're all different. There is no such thing as a cookie cutter racetrack.
Biffle leading this race, trying to improve on a Texas best of 28 and trying to join Jeff Burton, Mark Martin, and Matt Kenseth as Texas winners for car owner Jeff Roush.
Been watching this battle right here for second. Michael Waltrip in the 15, Kurt Busch in the 97. And what you see right there, they've been doing it almost both ends of the racetrack. Kurt Busch in the 97 goes to the bottom. Michael Waltrip right up at the top of the groove. And now through 3 and 4, Michael in the 15 for the first time about 10 laps, he goes to the bottom of the racetrack.
Well, he's watching and he sees that Kurt gains on him a little on that end. So he said, let me try that line and see if I can run that and pick up speed.
This battle for second and third occurs about 1 second behind Greg Biffle. Matt?
Mike, there is concern in the 16th pit 5 laps ago, Greg radioed in, said he has a vibration in the front. If you look at his lap times, Larry Mack, he is eased out of it, trying to be a little more conservative. Between 3 and 4/10 of a second per lap, he is slowing down. He said before the last pit stop, he felt like he could have run 3 to 4/10 of a lap faster, but he was trying to save that right front tire because he hit the wall here on Saturday, and he knows how hard that wall is. He doesn't want to feel it again.
There's no question. He has to be a little bit gun shy because the lap times and how hard they're loading that right front tire, I think it makes such a difference. And of course, I'm sure he's maybe wondering, is he feeling the same thing that he felt in practice yesterday morning?
Yeah, he's got to be. All these drivers just a little bit gun shy right now about the right fronts, tires and wheels. I've been watching a little bit as Kyle Busch in the 5 car. You know, he was in a wreck early, and the car looks terrible. The whole back end of it's knocked off, but he's right there running along behind Jeff Gordon in 16th spot, and he has passed a lot of race cars. And if you look, the whole back of the car, Larry, has been knocked off.
They definitely have that car right now because he started back in 35th position, including all those problems.
Several cars, as he pulls up on Jeff Gordon, several cars involved in that wreck have returned to the race. Scott Wimmer ran a few laps and then parked it for the day. So did Bobby Labonte. But Jason Leffler is back out on track, as is Brian Vickers, Scott Riggs, and Travis Quaffle.
Yeah, we're a third of the way through the race, and the only 2 cars that are officially out, Scott Wimmer in the 22 involved in one of those wrecks, as well as Jeff Green in the 43. This is one car that's not moved off the bottom of the racetrack. Greg Biffle, our leader in that 16 car.
Ford, Chevy, Ford, and then 2 Dodges. There's Waltrip in 2nd, Kurt Busch in 3rd, Jamie McMurray, and Casey Kane. Steve?
Mike, just wanted to follow up on Casey Kane. He has not said a word since about 10 laps ago when he said he thought his right rear was going flat. I talked to the tire specialist, Bob Askin, and he said that the car is on the tight side and it may have given Casey the feeling that the right rear was going down.
Steve, his lap times look good. Now, we're only about halfway through this run. We're about 25 or 30 laps away from the next scheduled pit stop. But right now, Casey Kane in the 9, he's running the laps pretty comparable to our couple of top 2 cars.
Yeah, I like it. You know, they said Biffle slowed down a little bit, take care of that right front. He just slowed down to what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
Tony Stewart is one of the 3 quickest cars on the racetrack right now. Stewart also has the fastest lap of the race, set back at lap 42. He's in 6th place. Matt Kenseth running in 7th, 7.7 seconds off the lead. Jeremy Mayfield started up front. He's now 8.6 seconds back, running in 8th place. And he was being caught by Casey Mears, but now that gap has stabilized. They're just about half a second apart.
We see all these Dodges running up in the top 10, and there's no question, even though they may not own up to it, everyone, I think, in the Dodge, they want to become the first Dodge Charger to go to victory lane since Neil Bonnet went to victory lane in 1977 at Ontario Speedway in a Dodge Charger.
Ricky Rudd in the Wood Brothers Ford behind Mears in 10th. He's 10.5 seconds back of the leader. And out his rear camera, you see Jimmy Johnson trying to close. Johnson is 11 seconds back. He came in here with a 160-point lead over Greg Biffle, but where he's running right now would chop that lead down to just about 100 points.
Larry, he's talking about the Dodge Charger. I look at the nose of the Dodge Charger, and that thing looks like it'd have a ton of front downforce. And I believe that chopping the blade off in the back that inch with that new nose they got on that car is what's causing them problems.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons is riding with Jeff Burton right now in the 31 car back in 12th position. We talked about him. He actually got up against the wall there off turn 2. I think that's one reason Ray Evernham with his Dodges has stepped up their testing program. In fact, Jeremy Mayfield in the 19, that team has tested 4 times in the last 2 weeks, strictly working on the aero part of that race car at the racetrack.
They're your first 2 drivers to win at Texas, Jeff Burton and Mark Martin. Burton's win here in 1997 was his first Cup win. Very popular victory. Mark Martin followed up, went to victory lane in 98 in a race that saw 24 lead changes. The record here is 29. We've had 9 lead changes today.
Just remember, Mark Martin comes into this race 4th in the Nextel Cup points right now.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. is 14th, 14 seconds off the leader, and his lap time's about 0.3 of a second slower than Greg Biffle.
And of course, Dale Earnhardt Jr., he got his very first Nextel Cup win here in his rookie season in 2000, as well as his very first Busch Series win in 1998.
Junior's win was the one that set the record for leaders and lead changes. Jeff Gordon, you see from Kevin Harvick's roof cam. Maybe too much has been made about Gordon never having won at Texas. We've only come here 8 times.
What a great problem to have.
Yes.
He's won at every racetrack before on the circuit.
Like I said, he's got 71 wins and 4 championships, but you never won at Texas.
Or a set goes a lap down.
Good thing about this year, you get 2 chances. So,
right.
You know, maybe he'll get it, then get it this time and get it the next time. I've been watching Biffle, and I'll tell you, he is not slowing down one bit. I want you to watch him come off turn 4 here. Right here he comes. Yo, that's Greg Biffle at his finest.
Yes,
right
it
there.
is.
That's what he does best. Then we switch over to turn 2 and watch Jeff Burton.
I think we were riding with him a while ago when that happened.
The tires are starting to, you know, it said getting that point in a run where your tires are starting to get a little grip.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he got it.
Close shave. Here's Dick Berggren on the 2nd place car.
Well, Michael Waltrip is having his best points-paying race of this entire season today. Let's remember that his first 2 races of the year, he had engine DNFs. In Las Vegas, extra stops to fix a fender. In Atlanta, speeding penalty. Bristol, late stop for vibration. Martinsville, a crash. And so crew chief Tony Uri is on the radio about every 10 or 15 laps. His message to Michael, take care of your stuff, and we got a caution for debris.
Caution for debris.
On the front straightaway, NASCAR had been looking at a piece of debris for some time, and either it moved or was judged to be a hazard to the oncoming cars. And if you've ever seen one of these race tires cut in cross section, they are so thin compared to your passenger car tire, they couldn't, well, they might be able to run over a speed bump, but I doubt it.
Well, and when they get hot and they get this far into a run, it doesn't take much at all to cut one of them down.
And I know I talked to Goodyear engineer Rick Campbell yesterday, and he told me they actually went with a little thinner rubber on the right side tire here because it makes it run a little bit cooler. That caution is very timely for Terry Labonte, Mike Wallace, Mike Bliss, Bill Elliott, because they were not that far from going a lap down to our leader, Greg Biffle.
There's a piece of metal debris. That would certainly create havoc with one of these tires. So we're under caution for the 6th time today at lap 123.
We're about 2/3 away through that run, so pretty much you can safely say about all 30 or 31 cars on the lead lap will be to pit road to get 4 tires. You see Robbie Gordon, the 7 car there right behind Greg Biffle. He will get the free pass, be back on the lead lap, but this is I think this caution was needed for a lot of race cars that were about to go a lap down.
Yeah, even Dale Jarrett and Elliott Sadler running up there in 25th and 26th spots. They wasn't that far from getting in trouble. They're going to have to do some work on those cars if they're going to get up there and run for the win again this year.
It's very hot here. These windshields starting to get dirty and sandblasted. NASCAR just gave the teams an extra man, the 8th man, and all that man can do is clean the windshield or pull a tear off the windshield or service the driver. No other functions can that man do as he goes across the wall.
Time for the pit crews to spring into action once again. Matt?
Leader Greg Biffle will bring the leaders down onto pit road. Now, he was telling his crew chief Doug Richard the car was free, especially down in 3 and 4 and a little bit tight. He wants him to work most on the center. They're not going to change the air pressure. He doesn't want to start any lower than he did on the last stop. So they're going to make a chassis adjustment, which is already completed, as they come around to the left side of the car to Jeannie Zalaska.
The 42 of Jamie McMurray saying it's loose coming into the pits, but please do not mess with it because I think it's working good that way. Steve?
Jeannie, Kurt Busch got 4 tires, air pressure adjustments. He said the track is tightening up. He is tight from the center off. Dick Berggren.
Michael Waltrip did a great job of parking his race car, and his crew has done a great job as well. Will he beat the 16 out? Looks like he did it.
I tell you what, that Napa team, they got her done that time on that pit stop. You see the race off pit road, Michael Waltrip gains that one important position. Matt Kenseth, he really got off of pit road good as he left his pit stall. And you see right there, Ricky Rudnett Group and Mark Martin all gaining positions. This will be the time off pit road as far as including the pit stop there. You see Michael Waltrip, Matt Kenseth, guys that gained the most positions, gained positions as well. Jeremy Mayfield, Casey Mears in the red, the slowest times. And now we'll look at the race off through our camera at the end of pit road, just barely, but barely counts. Michael Waltrip wins the battle over Greg Biffle.
Tony Eury Jr. and a happy Napa team. They'll be P1 on the restart.
The Samsung Radioshack 500 on Fox is brought to you by the next Ford F-150, built Ford tough. By Cialis. Cialis is here. Ask your doctor if a free sample of Cialis is right for you. By the new Singular, raising the bar. And by Old Spice. Keep cool, smell great.
A lot to be done here. Michael Waltrip leads Greg Biffle and Kurt Busch. But next Saturday night, under the lights in Phoenix, Jeff Gordon said on the pre-race show, hey, night racing, love it, bring it on, want more of it. Dale Earnhardt Jr. from the last 2 races in Phoenix. Prime time action in high definition only on Fox. We hope you'll be there.
Greg Biffle all over Michael Waltrip looking for a way by on this restart and not finding one.
Last restart, Michael's car was really fast for a couple of laps, but I think Biffle just gets off of turn 2 so well. I mean, that thing rockets up out of there.
There you see Greg Biffle just pulls the bottom of the racetrack off into turn 3. Looks like he's going to bring his teammate Kurt Busch in the 97 car as well.
Yeah, right now, even though the high line is not a bad thing to do later on, it's not going to work very well right now because everybody's on fresh tires.
There you talked about it a little while ago. Right now we have
on the bottom right now.
Cars, 1, 2, 3. And there goes Jamie McMurray in the 42 car in that Dodge Charger.
Whoa, Stewart got Michael real bad loose up off of 2, and he almost crashed.
Michael continues to lose position. Tony Stewart goes by him. Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 8 car. I'm sorry, that's actually Casey Kane in the 9, as well as his teammate Jeremy Mayfield.
Casey Mears to the bottom, tickles the grass on the quad oval as he gets under Mayfield. Big knot of cars. Waltrip stuck up on the outside. Now,
clear either side, you're clear.
Darrell, it's like when they drop that restart flag and you gotta go. You got 2 laps to take maybe your one best shot at making the pass.
Yeah, you got to, you know, when you got new tires on that thing, you got to go like crazy because you know they're going to fall off a little bit.
4 of the 5 Roush cars in or just outside the top 10. Carl Edwards was involved in the first crash of the day when Dave Blaney spun in the back straightaway. Had some front end damage that's probably affected the aero on his car. So Edwards soldiering on in 18th and making a try on Ryan Newman here.
Mike, what's so interesting is we watch all these other Roush cars go to the head of the pack. They were all looking at the 99 car of Carl Edwards and saying, hey, he has really got the best car of all of us. And probably, as you had pointed out, when he went down across this grass, messing up the nose and probably knocking the front end out of a line, it's going to make this team have to work extra hard to get that 99 car back up where his teammates right now are.
Tony Stewart, Casey Mears, Michael Waltrip. 6th place.
42 around the 17 for 3rd place. Made that look pretty easy. Actually, Matt pulled down a little bit. I was wondering if, you know, we talked about 16 had a tire problem, 9 maybe had a tire problem. Anybody, I think Matt may have the answer to that.
Doug Richard and the crew looked over Greg Biffle's tires. Nothing looked amiss. They looked at the wheel to make sure there weren't any loose lugs, checked for a possible equalized tire. Nothing that they could point to as to why he had the vibration.
Well, the good thing is, Matt, is we've had 2 long green runs that they've been able to look at these tires. But what equalize means is we're at a super speedway, a speedway where they run an interliner safety seal. It's a tire within a tire. And normally you have about a 12 to 15 pound differential in the air pressure. But if the pressure leaks over, both pressures in both tires will be the same and cause one heck of a vibration for that driver.
Yeah, that's a little tire inside a big tire. It just keeps you out of trouble if you have trouble with that outer one.
14th place race right here. Dale Jr., Kevin Harvick, Jimmy Johnson, as Casey Kane and McMurray once again go side by side. This time it's for third. Jeannie?
Well, Jamie McMurray coming into the pits last time, basically talking about the same vibration everyone else was complaining about, and whether there's any comfort in the masses in misery. That's what his crew chief, Donnie Wingo, said. Look, everybody's talking about the vibration, but the thought process here is that maybe there is just rubber that is being built up on the rotor that's causing the problems too. But they're checking out the tires. They can see right here that they just took off of the car, making sure it wasn't a problem with a lug nut as well.
I tell you another thing that sometime on a super speedway can bother a driver is the brake rotor itself, because you run so long without using the brakes. If you use them real hard one time, they superheat and they'll warp a little bit, and from then on you just got a vibration all day long, and you think it's a tire, but it's actually a brake rotor.
Now what they're actually looking at, they're not looking at the tire right here, they're looking at the rim. Remember, we had the problems last week, Tony Stewart in the 20 car. We've had problems with Jeff Gordon. They're making sure they see no signs of cracking on the inside of that rim.
Steve, what did Casey Kane's crew learn about tires and wheels?
Mike, I was just listening to Casey Kane. He's also saying now that he feels a vibration again on that race car. Again, I just followed up with Bob Askin, the tire specialist. One thought is that the tire pressure didn't build up enough, but a lot of these drivers today are talking about that vibration.
The other thing that these teams do is they drop the air pressure in the outer tire as well as the inner liner. And sometimes that outer tire will squish into the inner liner, and you will have a vibration.
We've been talking about Casey Mears in the 41 car, this backup car. He just drove by Matt Kenseth in the 17. That moves Casey Mears up into the top 5 in 5th position.
Climbing into the top 10, Mark Martin.
And Mark, you know, he started 16th, and he didn't make a lot of moves in the beginning of the race, but he's been getting a car about every 10 or 15 laps. He's had some good pit stops. Pat Trice making good adjustments, and now he just cracked the top 10 up in 10. And this paint scheme, we talked about the retro paint scheme. This was the paint scheme, the color of the car back in 1989 when he won his very first Nextel Cup race at Rockingham.
That contact he had with the 43 car early in the race, it takes Mark Martin a long time to get over something like that. He will come back.
This is the battle here for basically about position 17 through 25th. See Jeff Burton in the 31 car up there. We're riding with his teammate Kevin Harvick in the 29. He's in 19th position right now.
A lot of contenders in that pack, including Dale Jarrett in 25th in the UPS Ford. The Roush-Keteers out front. Greg Biffle 1.4 seconds ahead of his teammate Kurt Busch, then Casey Kane, McMurray, and Mears. Welcome back to the Samsung Radioshack 500 at Texas Motor Speedway in front of a huge Texas-sized crowd of roughly 200,000 people. They're watching this race cycle through as this man, Greg Biffle, has taken a backup car from 41st at the green flag to first and a 1.6 second lead over his teammate Kurt Busch. Casey Kane and Casey Mears, young guns in Dodges, 2.8 and 4.2 seconds off the lead. Michael Waltrip has just moved back up to 5th. He is 5 seconds back. Jamie McMurray is 6th.
This is the man been on the move right here. Casey Mears in his 41 car. And Dick Bergman, he just moved past his teammate Jamie McMurray as well as Michael Waltrip.
He did, and let's be sure to point out that Casey Mears is also in a backup car. Early in the practice, the first practice, he had a tire problem, wound up in the wall. They put the cover on that car, brought this one out. This car has never raced before. It's been tested. Casey never liked it, but after he practiced with it here in Texas, I saw him this morning on the way to driver intros. He had a huge smile on his face and said he likes this car now. Just talked to his crew chief, Jimmy Elledge, who said they can dial still more speed into this thing. It's pushing just a little bit.
Mears' best career finish 4th at Watkins Glen last year. Here's what happened in practice to Casey Mears.
This is right after practice started on Friday before qualifying. Now again, he had a tire problem obviously, but it was a cut tire. There was no performance issues there. And then when he actually went out in this backup car, as soon as they unloaded it and put it through inspection, he cut a right front down on it, but fortunately kept it out of the wall.
Pushing just a little bit, that's a happy car, and that's a really happy driver.
Pole sitter Ryan Newman falls a spot and out of the top 20 as Joe Nemechek goes by on the low side. Puts a smile on the face of those Fort Hood soldiers up in turn 3.
But Ryan Newman, Matt Moore in the 12th car, they've not been happy since they qualified that car on Friday. Got a great qualifying run in on Friday. We watched them in both practice sessions yesterday. They were wanting to make another run even when practice ended. They never got that car where they needed it.
I think you look at Ryan Newman and you can see why he's so fast. I mean, he can absolutely carry a car around here for a lap or two, but he can't do it for 500 miles.
See him racing Dave Blaney in the 07 car there. Remember, back on lap 2, Dave Blaney spun sideways off turn 4. Now he's up there trying to crack back into the top 20, still on the lead lap. Need to mention Bobby Labonte is back in the race right now, 98 laps down. So right now we only have 2 cars off the race track in the garage area that are making repairs. Johnny Sauter, Bobby Hamilton Jr. with Scott Wimmer and Jeff Green on the truck loaded up.
Greg Biffle goes past Labonte, not having a good day at his home track. Carl Edwards is one of the very few involved in one of the big 4 cautions for Rex today that has been able to, he's the only one who's been able to stay on the lead lap. He's presently 13th, 12 seconds back. Let's take you back to just after the start of the race. And Edwards gets in the back of Jeff Green after Dave Blaney has spun. That's where he got the damage to the front of his Scott's Ford.
Similar to what we saw at Bristol when he got in the back of Hermie Sadler on the first couple laps of the race.
Jeannie?
Well, if there's anybody that could spin this into a positive, it would be Mr. Edwards. The talk in the 99 pit, you know, at the early spin through the lawn is appropriate considering the sponsor. Scott's reminding us it's all National Lawn Month, so it's just all par for the course. And of course, Carl in the car, he could care less. He was excited about driving 300 yesterday, 500 today. Said this is fun. He keeps saying that repeatedly. These long runs are great. Coming in last time for the pit stop, just getting 4 tires, fuel, and a wedge adjustment. But he's having a great time, Matt.
Last week's win for Jeff Gordon made a big jump in the championship standings from 12th all the way up to 6th, but he is struggling and struggling bad today. He is running back in the 14th position. After the last stop, he says the car has just gone wicked tight. They did the trifecta the last 2 stops, the track bar, wedge, and air pressure. They just cannot seem to get this car dialed in for Gordon.
And 1 spot ahead of Gordon, Carl Edwards about to inhale the point leader here. Jimmy Johnson in the Lowe's Chevrolet.
They've been doing what they do best on that 48 team. You heard Rick Hendrick talk in our pre-race when he talked to Darrell. Chad believes in Jimmy, and Jimmy believes in Chad. When Chad tells Jimmy Johnson he's going to make that car better, Jimmy believes him.
They will overcome whatever they get thrown at them. I can promise you that.
And they will be there by the end of the day.
Oh, yeah.
12th place changes hands, and Ricky Rudd just ahead in 11th. It was all Dodge in qualifying, and now it's 2 Fords up front. As Michael Waltrip moves around Casey Mears and goes back up to 4th place.
Yeah, his car's good on the long run. Looks like a little slow in the restarts, but comes on strong after a few laps.
Just ahead of them, Casey Kane in 3rd place. Steve?
Mike, Casey Kane just told Tommy Baldwin the car is shaking worse getting into the corners, but not as bad off the corners.
I still wonder if it's not a brake issue. I just wonder about that.
Mark Martin passed his Roush Racing teammate Matt Kenseth in the DeWalt Ford, and that moves Martin up to 7th. Mark Martin coming back toward the front. Greg Biffle, the leader, at 157 laps.
The Samsung Radioshack 500 on Fox is brought to you by Budweiser, the official beer of NASCAR and proud sponsor of Dale Earnhardt Jr. and the number 8 car.
And you can enter
in the weekly Gillette Young Guns Challenge. A lucky fan who correctly picks the top placing Gillette Young Gun each week. You get a look at them, will win $5,000. Log on to GilletteYoungGuns.com for details and enter for a chance to win. The Gillette Young Gun Challenge is brought to you by M3 Power, the world's best shave. Roush Racing 1-2. In fact, 11 times they've finished 1-2 in races. The last time at New Hampshire last September. We're a few miles away from the halfway point here at the Great American Speedway. Greg Biffle, Kurt Busch leading Michael Waltrip. You've heard Darrell and Larry and Mike talk about things like interliners and B-blowers to help illustrate that down to the Ford cutaway car below the Hollywood Hotel. Jeff Hammond.
Chris, as Larry and Darrell have been talking about tires and some of the problems maybe we'll be having here at Texas, let's take a look at about the interliner. This is the interliner. It's the tire inside the tire that a lot of guys right now have talked about adjusting to different pressures. You pressurize the small tire inside the bigger tire. Mike, also, Joey talked about how thin these tires are. So when you run over something, it's very easy to cut them. You put air in here this just takes the air to the outer and the bigger part of the tire. This one here, you put air into the interliner. Those are the areas that Larry was talking about. When they equalize these two pressures, you can get a vibration. Or if you lose a wheel weight from around the tire, it can also make a vibration. You got to realize that the speeds that these cars are traveling, any kind of change can really give a driver a bad sensation. At almost 200 miles an hour, you want everything very smooth and very calm. To also protect the tire, a lot of the teams are sucking air from underneath the car and blowing it through the tube on the what we call the bead part of the race tire to keep it cooler. A lot of heat goes through the edge of the tires. You want to cool them as much as possible. And the one thing that Darrell also talked about, all these pit stops that we've had, you may have also warped the rotor coming down pit road. Again, anything to make a vibration through the steering wheel can affect the driver's feel and create a little bit of uncertainty. And he's always calling back to the pit saying, guys, I've got a vibration. It could be a number of things. And a lot of times that's what will make a crew chief just about go crazy.
Thanks, Jeff. Greg Biffle has taken the halfway sign at 167 laps here. 2.3 seconds up on his Roush Ford teammate Kurt Busch. Michael Waltrip third and closing. Waltrip is the quickest car on the racetrack right now. Jamie McMurray's crew looking over tires and wheels.
I think they're looking more at the wheels right here, and we were being told as they're doing this that they're having a lot of visitors from other teams. Remember all the wheel issues we've had the last couple of weeks. What they're looking at is the lug holes in the center of that wheel to see if they see any indication that a problem may be lurking.
Most of these teams run Aero brand wheels, although teams are free to pick from any manufacturer. Their wheel was redesigned this year, and there is concern about the raised area in that center section that acts like a lock washer to keep tension on the lug nut. There you see the nut glued onto the wheel in that raised area.
And that right there gives the answer to a question we get about 10 or 12 times a week from fans. How do they put the lug nuts on there? And it's simply with just weather strip adhesive, and the end of the lug stud is slick. When they throw the wheel up there, the lug nuts hang on the end of the lug stud, and the tire changer is able to tighten them.
Jack Roush has won here 3 times with Jeff Burton, Mark Martin, and Matt Kenseth. And the 5 Roush cars are now all within the top 10.
Got that right.
All of the Roush cars.
All 5 of them are in the top 10 right now.
Now Carl Edwards has broken into the top 10 after those problems early in the race.
Steve, how about the driver in position 2, our defending Nextel Cup champ?
Boy, I'll tell you, Mike, Joey, Kurt Busch gives Jimmy Fennick great feedback. He just said, my car has gone from loose to tight. I am hurting it a little bit off the corner. Kurt's talking about adding air pressure to the right rear tire to get more bite. They will pit in about 18 to 20 laps.
Steve, what he might want to do is let Michael go by and follow him, because Michael has caught him, and they're running entirely different lines. He may want to see where Michael's running, so he can get up there and run with him.
And we see Michael right there in about the 3rd groove up the racetrack. There's only one more groove between him and the wall.
The 2 fastest cars on the track right now are Michael Waltrip in 3rd and Casey Mears 4th.
Let's see if we get any break. 191 miles an hour off into turn 1 there. No brake light that we can see. Down the back. Shouldn't be quite as fast as it is into turn 1. Quite a bit slower.
Little bit of brake there.
And that's that little touch on the brake pedal. If you warp a rotor, that little, lay your foot on that brake pedal, it'll about knock it off sometime, and that's a vibration that the driver can feel.
By running that high line, he's getting such a good run off the corner, especially off turn 4 the last time. Keeps that thing wound up, the momentum.
Got a bigger corner. You know, you get up there high, you got more corner to work.
You guys are really running up on some lap traffic pretty quickly. You see him up here.
Kurt Busch in the 97 looked like Kurt ran out of racetrack, had to back off the throttle a little bit, and it lets Michael carry it all the way down the straightaway, but Michael gets trapped behind Bobby Labonte, who's out there 99 laps down after that wreck earlier.
Pit stops before long as Greg Biffle leads Kurt Busch now by 1.6 seconds and Michael Waltrip 2 seconds back. You just saw Terry Labonte, the home state favorite, who's just gone 1 lap down to Greg Biffle. NASCAR on Fox stays out in the Wild Wild West. Next week, Phoenix International Raceway, first ever Spring Cup race. The Subway Fresh 500, and you'll see it in prime time Saturday night on Fox.
That's going to be so cool, that 1 mile racetrack lit up at night under the lights in the desert.
Yeah, we've been on the western swing most of the first part of this year.
If you see right there, we're at lap 182. We're probably within about 10 laps. You can see the fuel window on Greg Biffle, Michael Waltrip, Kurt Busch, our top 3. We're at about 8 to 10 laps of a green flag stop. This would be the first green flag stop we would make. This is
clear, leader in front.
That driver has to remind that driver, the crew chief remind the driver, no speeding on pit road. Watch your RPMs.
And this is a tough place to get on pit road. When you run around the bottom, you got to get that hand up. The spotter's got to tell people around you, we're pitting this time by.
And oh, by the way, no more lead for Greg Biffle. He's been catching lapped cars, and that allows Michael Waltrip and Kurt Busch to close within about 0.3 of a second of the leader.
Looks like Michael's car is really good, obviously, on the long run. Little edgy on the get-go on the restart, but that thing comes on strong after about 10, 15 laps.
Carl Edwards and team talking it over about what they'll do when this 10th place car pits.
Just starting to get a little bit tight, just a little. Starting to get a little bit tight, Bob. Still on the loose side on entry. Just a little.
Here we see the first of our leaders, Jamie McMurray, in that 42 car. He was running up in the top 10. First of the cars to hit pit road. His teammate, Sterling Marlin, 40 car as well. Jeannie.
Well, the 42 of Jamie McMurray in for the pit stop, guys. He hasn't talked about the vibration much, so maybe indeed it was in that wheel. What they are trying to do this time is put on 4 scuffs and air pressure adjustments in the tires and a track pressure adjustment, track bar adjustment as well. Matt?
The 2 Roush teammates pit together, the 97 of Busch and the 16 of Biffle. Biffle comes into his pit box a little bit at an angle. They take 2 tear-offs off the windshield. He said the car had gone a little bit to the tight side near the end of the run, but they didn't want to make it an adjustment. He liked it a lot. He's down and away, Steve.
Matt, they add wedge to the right rear of Kurt Busch. They've added some air pressure to the right rear. His car had gotten tight. Good stop for the 97.
Sterling Marlin, Casey Mears, Ricky Rudd also in, and now Jeremy Mayfield. Dick?
Well, the only thing they're adding to Casey Mears' car is 4 tires and fuel. No changes at all to that chassis.
Rusty Wallace coming, Kevin Harvick, Ryan Newman, Jeff Gordon as a lot of the leaders since the fastest cars have pitted. Pit road will fill up quickly.
15 continues to stay out and lead the race.
Elliott Sadler in, along with Kyle Petty, Robbie Gordon. Matt?
And Jeff Gordon's in. They've already made a chassis adjustment. They were planning on pitting lap 187. He felt like he had just killed the right front tire, and the car was going away fast. He's away as the 20 car, Tony Stewart, makes his way into his pit stall. He had slowly faded to the back end of the top 10. Shaggy Larson already has the red wrench in the back window. He cranks on it. Stewart was loose on entry and loose off. The 88 of Dale Jarrett's also in as well. Jeannie?
The 99 of Carl Edwards really getting loose on this run, which means he can't get into the high line where he wants to run. So they're going to make the adjustment to fix that as well. 4 tires as expected of fuel. He's out.
Casey Kane in and out, and the leader Michael Waltrip comes down pit road along with Mark Martin, Boris Said, Dave Blaney, Dale Jarrett. Dick?
And Michael Waltrip drove down pit road at 4,000 RPM. That's the way they monitor the speed of these automobiles. He has been told to be very careful when he leaves his pit stop. They expect to have traffic in front of him. 4-tire change, no wrench going into the back of this car. There shouldn't be. This thing has been absolutely terrific. There he goes.
Mark Martin coming out behind him after his stop. Terry Labonte is in. Here's Matt.
Matt Kenseth, the 17 car, hasn't won a race in over a year. He said the car was getting in the turns 1 and 2 decent, but it pushed from the center off. He also said it was really tight down in 3 and 4, an air pressure adjustment for the 17. He stayed out an extra lap just so he could pick up bonus points, and he heads down pit road. Tina?
For the aid of Dale Earnhardt Jr., making sure he tells his crew chief, look, you guys talk to me under green so we can figure out these changes. They talked about a track bar adjustment. And, of course, the 4 tires. He was very concerned because they're sliding backwards through the field. Said we need to get it back to the way it was at the beginning. We got to start passing these guys again.
Ryan Newman serves a pass-through penalty.
There's those penalties we were talking about, mistakes.
Tire rolled away from the tire carrier, and he had to come back in.
And we had a problem with the 9 car, Casey Kane, on his pit stop. And Steve, what happened, looks like he overshot his pit box across the line before they could complete this stop or even start this work. They had to back him up. Precious seconds lost, Steve Burns.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Larry Mack. And he told his crew he was afraid of hitting the 29 as the 29 was exiting his pit box. But good news for Casey Kane. He just reported that the vibration that they have experienced the last 2 runs is gone. The team looking at his tires, it just came off as number 9 Dodge. Vibration is gone.
The Schwann's Dodge of Kenny Schrader is the new leader. Schrader raced on the dirt track out back last night off the back straightaway here in front of a big crowd in his dirt late model. He stays out the longest, leads a lap, and now gets his service.
I think that will complete all of our lead lap cars making their pit stop. Looks like Greg Biffle's going to end up with about a 2-second lead over Kurt Busch. Looks like the real loser was Michael Waltrip. He's about 4 seconds behind Greg Biffle. It could be the pit stop. It could be how that driver gets on pit road and off pit road back up to speed.
142 laps to go here at Texas Motor Speedway as Dale Earnhardt Jr. steams on by the number 99. Jimmy Johnson pulls into the rear view of Carl Edwards. Greg Biffle back out front. And just like when pit stops began, he's nearly 2 seconds in front of his Roush Ford teammate, Kurt Busch.
The Samsung Radioshack 500 on Fox is brought to you by Radioshack. You've got questions, we've got answers. By Garnier's Fruity Style, unleash your style. By Enterprise Rent-A-Car, we'll pick you up. And by America Online. Want a better internet? You belong in America Online.
Greg Biffle leading Kurt Busch, a couple of Roush Fords. Nearly 200 laps in at the Texas Motor Speedway.
Almost 3 wide right there. Greg Biffle trying to get between the 25 car of Vickers and Kenny Schrader's number 49 car. Really threaded the needle right there, Chris.
He almost had his hair colored. Let's rejoin Mike, Larry, and Darrell. Oh, a little close against the wall.
A little close.
Schrader is a hard car to lap because he just got fresh tires, and his lap times have been as good or better than Biffle's.
Yeah, they've been flip-flopping back and forth a tenth or so, but Schrader did a good job. He was just in that traffic, and he had to let Biffle go.
So Biffle 1.3 seconds up on Kurt Busch as we watch from Dale Jarrett looking back where the leader is lurking. One driver who was in the top 5 the first half of the day was Jeremy Mayfield. He's now fallen a lap down. What happened to him, Steve?
Well, Mike, on the lap or the stop previous to this one, they put a lot of air pressure in that right rear tire, and it just got crazy loose on him. He couldn't hang on and went straight backwards.
And Darrell, Steve, I think that's something a lot of these guys struggle with is evidently Jeremy's car was pushing, sliding the nose. What those guys did, though, they went, I think, to the wrong end of the race car. They tried to make it turn with the rear of the car, then got it loose.
And you got to remember, Slugger Labby and Jeremy haven't worked together all that long. If that driver gets panicky and says this thing is pushing like a dump truck, you got to do something, he did something. She wasn't pushing anymore.
See Dale Jarrett, the UPS 88 car, going a lap down. That means now we only have 20 cars on the lead lap as he locks in on Jeff Burton in the 31 car, who was actually running up near the top 10 not too long ago.
And Larry, some of those early adjustments from those early caution flags, sometimes you can just over-adjust, and then you get caught out on some of these long greens, and buddy, you pay a price.
A lot of those adjustments were based on short runs.
Here's Matt.
Mike, Larry Mack, and DW hit on exactly the problem for Ricky Rudd. He's running in the 10th position. His times are within a 10th or 2 of the leader, Greg Biffle, but they over-adjusted on the previous stop, so they had to back it up on this past stop. It had really killed his entry, and it showed on the stopwatch, but right now they are working their way back to the front. They just lost so much track position in the process.
Well, when you're running 200 miles an hour and you're in the turns all the time, I mean, the driver panics. Man, you know, he'll go into another octave. Jeff can tell you that, and you know it too, Larry. And when he does, the crew chief says, okay, we got a problem here. We got to fix it.
And I think you talked about it earlier in the show, Darrell. I think the chassis are tight. They're wanting to slide. They're wanting to slide the nose, but the cars are arrow loose because of that shorter rear spoiler driving off in the corners at that speed.
And you hear them say, well, it's one way one time, one way another way another time. A lot of that has to do with the cars you're around, too.
Right now, no cars around Kurt Busch, but the gap still 1.6 seconds to the leader. Jimmy Johnson and Sterling Marlin just exchanged 12th place. And how about last week's winner, Jeff Gordon? He finds himself only about 5.5 seconds from going a lap down to Greg Biffle.
Back in 18th spot, and that's about as good as he's been all day.
See, the 1999 winner of this race, Terry Labonte, the 44 car, just took his car to the garage.
Terry got some damage on pit road there with the 11 car slamming into the side of it. It looks like they've worked on that as much as anything.
Now Jeff Gordon's running about 31.03 while Greg Biffle runs 30.80, 0.2 of a second difference.
But you know, going back to Jeff Gordon, the 24 car, we talked about Ryan Newman in the 12, how they struggled in both those practice sessions yesterday. Jeff Gordon, Robbie Loomis, that 24 car, I don't think they ever got their car where it needed to be during practice.
And it's not just the Hendrick cars who are not faring well. Last year's winner, Elliott Sadler, is the next car in front of Greg Biffle, in danger of going a lap down. And Sadler's lap times just about a 10th slower than Biffle, so we're a ways from that happening. Those tenths add up over the course of 207 laps. That's how many we've completed, with 127 to go in the Samsung Radioshack 500 on Fox. A fender patch blew off Travis Quapple's car in turn 1. That puts us under caution. Pit road is open. Here's Matt.
Leader Greg Biffle says he needs to turn better. Today, his car has responded most to wedge. They're going to try another wedge adjustment. This also puts this team and all the other leaders in a window to make it on one more stop. Left side tires going on to Steve Burns.
Matt Kurt Busch says he's tight on exit. They get a small wedge adjustment, a half pound of air out of the right rear, half out of the left front. Good stop, Jeannie.
Mark Martin's crew chief Pat Drayson said clean in, clean out, as Martin reiterated, look, but I can't stand these restarts, so I guess I turn around fair play here. 4 tires, fuel, and a track bar adjustment, Dick.
Well, Michael Waltrip had a normal stop. He came into the pits 4th position. He's going to go out of here in what appears to be 4th position as well. They made a minor wedge adjustment and a minor air pressure adjustment. Car is so good that in the beginning they talked about making no changes whatever to the number 15.
You see right there, though, the race off pit road as far as Casey Kane gaining a position. But look back here, Jimmy Johnson at 48 team, Chad Knaus gains 3, Matt Kenseth. Those guys lose 4 positions. Big gainers, Jimmy Johnson, the 48 crew. There you see the times on pit road, including the pit stop. Casey Kane, Tony Stewart having the fastest times. Ricky Rudd and Matt Kenseth having the slowest times of the top 10.
Michael Waltrip missing from that graphic. His time did not register. But let's show you what brought out the caution down here in turn 1. Watch the yellow car.
Remember, Travis was involved in a wreck a little bit earlier in the race, and that was a patch, like you mentioned, Mike Joy, that came off that car, and that's what definitely brought the caution. Actually, Joe Nemechek, the 01, actually hit the patch. Now, here's the penalties starting to happen. Matt Kenseth in the 17 car, too fast exiting pit road, tail into the longest line, awfully late in the race to have that type of mistake.
Larry, I can tell you why guys keep having a problem on exiting a pit road. As a driver, you start down pit road and you see all the pit crews. They're all lined up along the wall on the left side. When you get to the last pit box down there, you say, okay, I'm clear. I can go now. But there's an additional, here's the cones over here. Now here, see this area right through here? That's still in the timing zone. When you pass these guys, you think, I'm clear. But you've got to go a little further before you actually cross this line so that you know you're out. It's confusing as a driver because you see the crews are gone, there's an opening, you think you're out, and you're not.
Matt is in Matt Kenseth's pit.
And Mike, 2 races ago, NASCAR officials in the drivers' meeting told all the drivers and crew chiefs, when we look at who has been busted for speeding, we look at where they were speeding, it's always right at the first timeline and the last. And DW, you're exactly right. Everybody trying to get that last burst of speed, trying to get on the pit road and trying to get in the gas as quickly as possible on exit. That's exactly what happened to Matt Kenseth.
The electronic timing system plays no favorites. Greg Biffle, Casey Mears, Kurt Busch, Michael Waltrip, Casey Kane in the front 5 at 213 laps.
The Samsung Radioshack 500 on Fox is brought to you by Nextel. Go to foxsports.com to find out how you can be the Nextel Fan of the Week.
I'm with our Nextel Fan of the Week, Kim Fuller, a.k.a. the Martha Stewart of NASCAR without the nifty ankle bracelet. And you didn't do anything criminal, right?
No, just made a real pretty display here for food to eat.
This is a NASCAR display because beer and burgers, they're out, guys.
Right, we're just trying to do something with 4 ingredients or less, but make it really nice so you can have a really good time.
Right, besides being a NASCAR fan, you got a cookbook coming out, yes?
I hope so. I don't have a publisher yet, but I just want to make everybody know that NASCAR is not just beer and burgers, but we have a really good time with really great food.
All right, congratulations, our Nextel Fan of the Week.
All right, thank you very much. If you'd like to be considered and appear as the Nextel Fan of the Week, go to www.foxsports.com/Nextel and enter today, and you could be next. Time for a Visa race break. We've gone 216 laps. Greg Biffle leading Casey Mears here at the Great American Speedway with Jeff Hammond, Chris Myers from the Hollywood Hotel. A couple of backup cars leading the way so far.
Well, it just goes to show you how good these teams are. If you have a problem early on or had like what Greg Biffle did yesterday in one of our final practices, they were able to bring these cars off the truck, put brand new engines in them, put the type of race set up underneath that they needed to. These crews are tuned around them. What do you see now? They're leading and running first and second, basically.
All right, let's check in with Dick Berggren on Casey Mears. Dick?
Well, I'm with his crew chief, Jimmy Elledge. And, Jimmy, you do know the history of this place, don't you? That Earnhardt Jr. won his first ever Nextel Cup race here, and Jeff Burton won his first ever here. Your guy has never won one of these things. What do you think? More history?
Well, I hope so. You know, our Target Fujifilm Dodge is running really great today, and I think it's a good statement about our race team. You know, we felt like we needed to put more emphasis into our backup cars, and man, we had some terrible luck on Friday. Just wrecked the first car in 2 laps, and the second one had a flat right front just as soon as we went off pit road. But man, what a rebound here, you know, and things are going well. Had good pit stops, and cars handling good, so hopefully we can get that thing in victory lane. Green was good luck for Carl Edwards for his first race, so maybe that'll be good for us.
Indeed, and the crew chief is making great calls, and the drivers doing a great job as well, Mike. This is a total team effort that's put Casey Mears in second spot.
There's Mears right behind Greg Biffle. 2 cars that were saved by this caution have made extra pit stops. Elliott Sadler and Jeff Gordon. More on that in a moment as we picked up some interesting audio from Dale Earnhardt Jr. and crew.
But as hard as it is for us to get better, the last thing I want is to get a little worse. So start using your heads and start talking back and forth to me. Let's work together. I ain't hearing nothing but 10-4, 10-4, 10-4 all day.
And I know how he feels. Sometimes you feel like you're on an island all by yourself and you've just been voted off. And I'm telling you, sitting out there and you talk, and you always say, is anybody watching this race but me?
Jeannie?
I brought that up that last pit stop, that was Junior really trying to encourage them to talk during green flag. This isn't the first scolding they've gotten today. Dr. Phil, where are you? Please report to the pits. But just to finish this off, Junior came on after he was done saying, look, I know it sounds like I'm mad, but I'm not. I'm still smiling.
Well, he knows that this race is winding down, not a lot of more opportunities to adjust on that car, and bad things happening in the pits. You may only have one more pit stop, hard to overcome it this late in the race. We need to mention Jeff Burton in the 31 car was the beneficiary of the free pass back on the lead lap.
20 cars on the lead lap with 117 to go. Greg Biffle brings them down, and Casey Mears is right on his bumper and going for it.
A lot of hungry cars trying to get back on that lead lap, like Dale Jarrett in the 88, Jimmy McMurray, outside pole sitter in the 19.
But Biffle lucked out, got down in front of Dale Jarrett there, and makes it a little bit tougher for Casey on the outside, but he's going to make it, I think.
Boy, Casey Mears over the 41 car got a great run off turn 2. He moves to the high side, slides down in front of Dale Jarrett in the 88 car.
But look at that red Dodge of Casey Kane slicing underneath the Ford of Kurt Busch, side by side for third. Check that, it's Mayfield behind. It was Mayfield to the bottom. Casey Kane behind on the outside.
And I know a car that just keeps creeping up right there. Mark Martin in that 6 car. He's up to the 6th position, battling Jamie McMurray right there in the 42 car.
They've already switched positions once since this restart. Now, Jeff Gordon made an extra stop. They pulled on the right front fender. Create a little more downforce there, and Elliott Sadler was in twice, 3 times during that caution flag, working on the defending race winner's car.
Good time to work, though. They just barely stayed on the lead lap before that caution came out. There we see Casey Kane, though, in that 9 car, moving to the high side. Michael Waltrip in the 15 slams the door. He does a crossover, though, on him. This is a battle for the 4th position.
Got that right. It's a battle right there, boy.
Kane makes the pass. Steve, what did they do to Elliott Sadler's car?
Mike, it's more like what didn't they do? They made so many adjustments to that 38. They made 3 stops under caution. They made a track bar adjustment, a wedge adjustment, took a spring rubber out of the left rear. They had to tape the hood because it was flapping. Todd Parrott said we might as well make these adjustments. We have nothing to lose at this point.
Absolutely nothing. Again, they were going to be about the last car on the lead lap. You see Matt Kenseth in the 17 car. He also made an additional stop. Remember, had that penalty a while ago for too fast exiting pit road. This is a battle right here for about the 17th position between the 24, 31, 17, and 38.
And that 24 car, there's something about Texas and that 24 car that don't seem to like each other.
Going off the corner.
And don't forget, Texas gets a 2nd Nextel Cup race beginning this season, and it will be part of the 10-race chase for the championship late in the season.
How many more thousand people you reckon they can put in this big place?
Bring them on.
See Dale Jarrett in the 88 car actually sitting exactly where he needs to try to get that free pass. Should we get a caution? Jamie McMurray, the 42, keeps working Michael Waltrip in the 15. Looks like he's finally going to get the position off into turn 1.
Yeah, well, as I said earlier, Michael's car is not real good on these restarts. It must be on real low air. Takes it about 10, 15 laps before it really gets going. Then he comes back on the high side.
Jeff Burton just made a nice move on Jeff Gordon as they battle back and forth, and you pick up right here on the rear bumper cam of Burton. He got a good run off turn 2 to make that pass on Gordon for 17th.
Looks like when somebody sticks their nose right under Jeff Gordon's back bumper, that car just goes crazy, and he has to get out of it or get out of the way.
4 caution flags in the first 32 laps here in Texas. 4 crashes. That took a total of 8 cars to the garage, half of which have since returned. Since then, we've been caution free, but we're free for debris on the racetrack, which has kept the field pretty close and kept 20 cars on the lead lap. Greg Biffle, your leader, by 1 second over Casey Mears. Let's go to the pits and Matt.
31 car, Mike, of Jeff Burton. He was very strong earlier in the race, and the car just went crazy loose, he told his team on the radio. They have slowly worked this car back, running just inside the top 20 now. They are working their way back through. They passed by Jeff Gordon. He says his car is just way loose since that last stop. You saw all the work they did on the 2 stops. And this race is going to break a streak of 4 straight top 5s here at Texas. Gordon had a great run here at the Great American Racetrack coming in. Not going well today.
His teammate, however, Jimmy Johnson, has crept up into the top 10 just ahead of Rusty Wallace. Johnson and Wallace 9th and 10th. There they are. Johnson going for his 13th straight top 10 finish, and Wallace trying to move back in contention.
Resky had a great qualifying run on Friday. Qualified up in the 6th position, was running in the top 10. About 145 laps ago, he had a penalty on a pit stop under caution. The catch cam man was not in place, had to go to the tail end of the longest line, which was way back there. It's taken him this long to get back in the top 10. And another car that had a problem about 200 laps ago, the 3rd Ganassi car, Sterling Marlin in the 40 car, he had what he thought was a flat under green, went a lap down, got the free pass. Now he's back up in the 12th position. We have all 3 Ganassi cars in the top 12.
Plus the Roush cars. So they pretty much dominate the race today.
That pretty much is the top 12, isn't it? Well, not really. Michael Waltrip Chevy is 6th. Tony Stewart is 8th. Jimmy Johnson 9th. In Chevrolets, plus the 4 Fords and the 4 Dodges in the top 10. Casey Mears holding station about 1.4 seconds behind Greg Biffle.
Greg Biffle in a Ford, currently leading here. Kurt Busch currently running 3rd, also in a Ford. It's been a rough few weeks for Kurt. Remember, at Bristol, then Martinsville. Knocked around in both of those, even in the IROC Series here, but has competed in the top 5 for much of this race. Meanwhile, Greg Biffle, who wrecked in practice here, had to go to a backup car, has worked himself into the lead, and in his Ford has led the most laps today and leads with 98 laps to go. Ford built for the road ahead, and Roush Racing and all of his Fords in the top 20 at this point. At one point, all 5 of his drivers were in the top 10.
Before you take a look at that, also, I look down that. You can see Ricky Rudd has now moved up into the top 10. He's running 9th right now. So, I mean, a good day for the Ford guys. Really looking strong. This is looking out the front of Ricky's car. And, I mean, so far, Greg Biffle, my friend, he is gone. I mean, all of a sudden, he's hit the afterburners, and he is checking out on these guys.
His best finish at Texas previously was 28. I want to talk about Kurt Busch because he talked to us in the pre-race show, defending champ. Talk about a guy who's been hurting physically, even mentally, some bad luck, staying power, showing the toughness that a defending champion should.
Very much so. I am very, very impressed with him. I mean, today, I didn't know if he had it in him to really get in here and fight like he needed to, but he's driven this car to the front and stayed up there all day long, and he's showing a lot of heart. He's showing what a champion's made out of, and he wants to defend that title. And I mean, my hat's off to him as well as Jimmy Finnick and that entire crew right now. They're making a really good showing here today.
Working out an impressive point position jump as well.
And he's gaining right now on the 41 car, Casey Mears. It looks like he's starting to run him down, so he's getting stronger as we go toward the latter part of this race.
And Tony Stewart, who's led the 2nd most laps in this race, 45, tailing down a little bit, currently running 10th. Let's go back upstairs to Mike, Larry, and Darrell.
Darrell, NASCAR's rules don't allow for a substitute driver to start the race. If you don't start the race, you don't get any points. It's tough for Kurt Busch to drive hurt, but wouldn't it be tougher for him to let down his team and let somebody else run that car?
Well, it's always been a huge debate, Mike, about whether, you know, a driver could have a substitute driver or trouble.
Oh,
got a car around back there.
Robbie Gordon pounds the wall pretty hard coming off turn 2 and tears the back end off of his Chevy.
Yeah, boy, I hate that.
That is the 8th caution of the day, coming at lap 240.
Having a pretty good run. He was only 1 lap down. Pretty good day for that team that struggled so much.
That'll be the break, though. Dale Jarrett, the 88 car, the UPS car, was looking for, because he was the first car a lap down. He will get the free pass.
And again, his teammate Elliott Sadler, Jarrett's teammate, and Jeff Gordon were the 2 cars most in jeopardy of going a lap down. So this caution is a bit of a break for them. Didn't see what happened to Jeff Gordon, or rather to Robbie Gordon, but that was a pretty hard hit.
Again, it's off turn 2 over there. You can see him up high. He just got loose there. He's all by himself. Backs it in the fence. Parts flying, springs coming out.
And he was having a decent run. He was just 1 lap down, running up in the top 22, 23 cars.
What I saw that I liked there was he never stopped driving it. You could see those wheels pulling forward. He was digging to get that car straightened out so it wouldn't spin back up in front of traffic.
Takes it to the garage area. Now we are pretty safe to say about 30 laps in this run we'll see all of our leaders to pit road, but we're not to that window that Matt Yoakum was talking about where they could make this their final stop.
Nice smooth stop, guys. Just like we've been doing all day. Hit the sun.
That's Doug Richard, Greg Biffle's crew chief. Here's Matt.
Larry Mack, moments ago, that's exactly what Doug Richard told Greg Biffle. We are still not in that window yet. We will have to stop one more time. Biffle says the car turns better and it has more rear grip since their last stop. It's a tick on the free side, but he said, I really don't want to take a chance and make an adjustment now since we have to stop one more time. Let's just leave it alone.
One thing you remember about Atlanta, they didn't adjust on that car all day long, and at the end of the race, it kind of bit them. And Larry, the sun has gone in. It's kind of getting a little overcast. Better be ready.
Track's definitely cooling down. Jeannie.
42 of Jamie McMurray saying it's way better than it was before, deciding with crew chief Donnie Wingo. They needed more air in the right rear. That's what they got. Best change they made all day, so they're going with it again. Steve?
Kurt Busch says the car is the tightest it's been all day, Jeannie. They put a half pound out of the right front, quarter pound in the right rear to fix that. Dick.
Well, Casey Mears came out of the pits in second place. That's exactly where he had entered the pits. They were glad to see that caution flag because the tires that they put on the car on the last pit stop didn't agree with the car. The car had gotten very tight, so they made some air pressure adjustments this time around to try and solve this problem. And one more reason for Casey Mears to try to win the race today, as if there aren't already enough, it's his mother's birthday.
But I think they're making these adjustments not necessarily because a set of tires didn't agree. It's like you mentioned, DW, this racetrack is really changing and really cooling down.
Under caution for the 8th time today.
The Samsung Radioshack 500 on Fox is brought to you by UPS. We're going to race the truck. People love the truck.
UPS, the official delivery company of NASCAR, delivers the chance to win 4 tickets to next year's Daytona 500. Go to foxsports.com, keyword UPS. 20 lead changes. We had last year's winner, Elliott Sadler, stay out and lead a lap. He led for the first time today. Greg Biffle has led the most laps as they get ready to go green.
Dale Jarrett back on the lead lap. That makes 21 lead lap cars as Biffle, Mears, McMurray, Martin, and Tony Stewart lead the pack off turn 2.
Jason Mears, the 41 car, tried to contend with Ryan Newman, the 12 car, who's a lap down, tried to clear him through 1 and 2, but Ryan got a great run off turn 2 onto the backstretch. Casey got a great run that time on the high side off turn 4. He's able to clear the lap car of Ryan Newman in the 12.
28 car, Jimmy Johnson just about got in the back of Mark Martin's right here. I mean, that was close.
Guys, I tell you, a car that has moved back into the equation. He had faded just a little bit, but that orange Home Depot car, Tony Stewart, the 20, he's now back up in the 4th position. We have 87 laps to go.
The car didn't look right on his last run, Larry. The car just wouldn't seem to hold the bottom of the racetrack. But here is Stewart in 4th, Matt.
Mike, he was free on entry before the last stop, and the reason they over-adjusted the race car again, they put an air pressure change back into the car that they made on the previous stop. See, he's starting to work his way back up to the front.
Well, Jimmy Johnson, who had a very long pit stop early in this race while the crew had to pull out a reluctant spring rubber, has had terrific pit stops ever since then. He has managed to soldier all the way up toward the front of the field. Johnson right now running in the 5th position. And just after the last pit stop, in which they gained a couple of more positions, crew chief Chad Knaus got on the radio and told Johnson, if you can't get it done on the racetrack, we'll get it done in the pits. And, of course, he was just kidding because Johnson's doing a great job out there.
They're doing exactly what they did at Martinsville. They were so far off at the beginning of the race, they never gave up, and here they are battling Tony Stewart, the 20, for the 4th position. This is the reason these guys are leading the points by 160 points coming into this race.
There was a point in this race where Johnson's lead would have been cut to 100 now. He is 125 up on Biffle. He came in 160 ahead based on their positions at the moment.
Unlike some teams, they don't work on the driver all day long. They work on the car all day. And they encourage the driver when it counts.
Boy, Matt Kenseth had a rough restart. He went way up the hill. Carl Edwards had a hard time getting by him. And Matt has now slipped out of the top 20. I believe he's now the last car on the lead lap.
Yeah, Carl was going by on the outside of Matt Kenseth in the 17, and it just took him to the fence.
How about Dave Blaney just in front of Kenseth in that black 07, Richard Childress' Chevrolet. At lap 2, he spun to bring out the first caution of the day, but he's fought back. He didn't have any damage, apparently, and he is still a lead lap car. Blaney right now is 20th. Here's what happened to him right off the start of the race.
Just gets up high off turn 4 down here. Back end comes around. He stays in the gas.
Jeff Green goes for a spin. Carl Edwards through the grass. But Blaney gets it facing the right way and grabs a gear, and he is still on the lead lap.
Yeah, right now we have all of the Richard Childress Racing cars in the top 20. Remember, that was our first singular virtual wireless question, was could Richard Childress get a first win here at Texas? Paul Ibar in the top 20, still on the lead lap. Mike, you talked about the points. Greg Biffle, he's already locked up those 5 extra points for leading the most laps. No one can catch him on that.
Big battle here for 6th place. As Mark Martin tried the low side, Joe Nemechek came down, held him up a little bit. Here came Casey Kane in the 9 around the outside.
It's a big battle, period. I mean, there's cars all over the place here battling for position.
And you see Kurt Busch in the 97 car, how he was so far back as they had problems with the right front on that last pit stop.
Jeannie?
Mark Martin coming into that last pit stop saying the car is way too tight. We have got to get her loosened up. Obviously talk amongst the crew that the sun, really an influence, or maybe a lack thereof. The clouds really moving in. Did take 4 tires, wedge adjustment, and then of course the reminders, you the man, we can take them one at a time. Steve?
Jeannie, Kurt Busch has been running in the top 3 for the majority of this race, but they had tough luck on that pit stop. They had trouble on the right front tire. He restarted the race in the 11th position. He's made his way back up to 7th.
4th place, coming off turn 2. That's, whoa, Jimmy Johnson loose after completing the pass on Tony Stewart.
Yeah, well, again, you just stick that nose up on the back of some of these cars, and it takes you for a ride, buddy. Jimmy did a great job of saving that baby.
Jimmy had a run on Tony off turn 2 to take the spot, but got really loosened up coming off turn 4, and Stewart had a chance to get
clear low. You're the man, dude.
Ran the high side through 1 and 2 that time. Really got a run off turn 2 and stretches it out back over Tony Stewart, the 20 car down the backstretch. But Darrell, we talk about it every time, a 500-mile race. We are approaching that final 100 miles. We've not had any engine attrition today. This is where it might show up.
Big move around the outside for Michael Waltrip. He took Mark Martin and Dale Earnhardt Jr. in one fell swoop.
And this is definitely, since Daytona, the best combined run by the 2 DEI cars. Dale Earnhardt Jr., who we're riding with, the 8 car who's in 9th, and Michael Waltrip right now, who's up there in the 8th position, the 15 car.
And a close call for Kurt Busch in the 97.
Now that right there, the car just takes off. A lot of that looks like, I know he's going to the outside right there, but the car just, it is frightening sometimes.
Junior's trying to work under Mark Martin, but here comes Michael all the way around, the long way around.
That was almost a lose-lose right there. Dale Jr. almost pushed Mark into Michael, who was going around on the outside.
3 wide off turn 4 is a little touchy.
And Ricky Rudd, Sterling Marlin in the 40, both get past Mark.
But Darrell, I couldn't help but think, looking at that move by Kurt Busch, looks like he dug back in that luck bank just a little bit.
Well, he did, because that thing was long gone, baby.
What's a crew chief's biggest concern at Texas? To vote, text the word crew to 191 on your singular wireless phone and go to foxsports.com. You'll also be entered for a chance to drive away in your own singular number 31.
Boy, Junior and Michael, they just went around. they got a little personal race going on between the two of them right now.
Yes, they do. They're battling for 8th position, but what a confidence booster for Dale Earnhardt Incorporated across the board if this group could come out of here in 75 laps, both with top 10 finishes.
Michael had a really good car at Atlanta. Got him a good finish over there. He runs good at Charlotte. Got a pretty good package for these tracks. And he and Tony Jr., Yuri Jr., they just seem to really get along well.
He's right behind this group. I continue to be impressed with Ricky Rudd, that 21 car. He's sitting there running in the 10th position, had a great qualifying run. He's backed it up with a good run, solid run all day today.
I think Ricky Rudd would be one of those kind of drivers, Larry, that would save a little bit because he knows it's 500 miles. As you can see, there's nobody waiting on anybody right now. They know they got to go. It's coming down to the crunch time.
That black and yellow car of Bill Elliott, the Stanley Tools 91, up in turn 2. Bill had to lift because the spotter must have told him there's 3 underneath.
Way to high, buddy, way to high.
What do they say? Hey, watch this.
Yeah.
Here's Michael and Dale Jr. They split Joe Nemechek. Then on the other end of the racetrack down here, they go like 5 wide.
Well, Darrell, when you have a 2-car team, there's got to be a temptation to say, no, we didn't run as well as we wanted to, but we were better than them.
Yeah, well, that team right there, they just are looking for improvement, period. And right now, they're getting it.
And I honestly believe when I look at our 2nd and 3rd place cars, Casey Mears in the 41 car, Jamie McMurray in the 42, same situation. Ganassi Racing, they just need a good, solid run across the board from these teams.
Yesterday's winner, Casey Kane, drove around Tony Stewart 2 laps ago to move back up into the top 5. Steve?
But, Mike, he's not real happy right now. They also had a slow pit stop after 2 consecutive 13-second stops. Their last stop was 16 seconds. They took a half a pound of air out of both front tires, and Mike, he does not like that at all. He wants them to put that air back in on the next stop.
So Kane right now is 5th, 9 seconds behind Greg Biffle. Jeff?
And his teammate right now, Jamie Mayfield, would like to have a caution, Mike, because he's keeping pace with the leaders. He's 3rd on the racetrack, but he's 1 lap down, and he's one of the guys right now. If he could get a caution flag, he may factor in before the end of the day.
Yeah, he's definitely keeping tempo with about the top 5 right now as far as lap times, Jeff.
I just believe the temperature is cooling down. It's changing the setups on these cars, the handling characteristics of some of these cars. We may see some cars that were really good early on struggle a little bit with these cooler temperatures.
And the speeds are coming up. Casey Mears in the 41 car just ran the fastest lap that he ran in this race about 10 or 12 laps ago.
Casey Kane has crashed hard coming out of turn 4.
Yeah, all by itself, Mike. You don't want to run
back in.
That is the 9th caution of the day.
He was pretty good right there. I'm still just a tad tight.
I believe that's Casey Mears. Lap 271, Casey Kane coming off turn 4 by himself. No other cars involved. But Darrell, that's a hard hit.
It was really hard, and it's all on the left rear there. But I was watching him, and it just looked like, I'm not sure if something happened to the car or not. I know it spun all by itself.
We'd got the report that he was not very happy with the way that car was driving.
He's been complaining about vibrations in that car all day long. You look up the top of the screen, you'll see him.
He has climbed out okay.
I think something happened to the engine in that car because you see smoke coming out of it before he crashes. How about it there, Steve?
Hey, DW, so far all Casey Kane has said is something broke.
Car definitely just came around with him.
Yeah, I think there's smoke coming out of it before it ever comes around, and there's a pretty good trail of oil down to where he is, as if something, either engine or something, let go in that car.
Yesterday's winner of the O'Reilly 300 in the NASCAR Busch Series, Casey Kane, was running in 5th place when he crashed at turn number 4.
Now, since he's sitting right at the entrance of pit road is closed. But now for a lot of cars, I think that may be good because we're right there on the edge of that window that this could be the final stop of the race.
Watch from Dale Jr. It's Michael Waltrip alongside.
Ooh. Boy, yeah, there's got to be, there's oil everywhere right there, and he just got in it. Fortunately, he didn't hit the wall.
And Darrell, we just
I got into the back of the 6.6. I was hitting oil. I couldn't stop. I couldn't get in the brakes. It was going to hit the wall, so I won't work on the front end a little bit.
That was so smart. I couldn't hit the brakes. I'd have hit the wall, so he had to slide it through there.
Darrell, we just had talked about it. We just crossed the 100-mile to go mark, and this is where this attrition starts showing up with these engines.
The Samsung Radioshack 500 on Fox is brought to you by new F3 Power from Gillette. Feel the power of the world's best shave. By Chevy, the winningest name in racing, an American revolution. By Coca-Cola Racing Family, Coca-Cola the official soft drink of NASCAR. And by new Tylenol Extra Strength Rapid Release Gel. Team Tylenol, think fast.
Time for a Visa race break. More than 200,000 fans have enjoyed a warm, sunny day. It's cooled off a little bit at the Great American Speedway. Great American Race. Greg Biffle leading Casey Mears and Jamie McMurray under the caution flag here with Jeff Hamm and Chris Myers. You were guessing, what, radiator problem on Casey Kane there? We think he's okay. Obviously, he's getting checked out medically.
Well, definitely he got out of the car on his own power, which is a good thing. But I was just looking when he hit the wall. I believe it was water coming across the racetrack along maybe when they busted an oil line or oil filter and maybe got some oil on the racetrack. That's what Dale Earnhardt Jr. was going through, and he said he couldn't slow down, and he got in the back of the 66 car of Sadler.
And you see what is left of the track right now as we are under the ninth caution. That is the Speedy Dry, helping to dry out the track here. Greg Biffle has led the most laps of his career in this race. He's led the most laps this year, and he's leading in Texas.
The Samsung Radioshack 500 on Fox is brought to you by Radioshack. You've got questions, we've got answers.
And there's a look at Casey Kane's car having problems. Let's talk a little bit with about 59 laps to go. Mistakes on pit road so far affecting this race.
Well, we've already seen where, Rusty Wallace got caught speeding coming out the end. Guys leaving lug nuts loose, leaving the catch cam not attached to the car properly. There are mistakes that you can't make. This is the pressure on these crews right now as we look at, that's Kurt Busch's crew. A minute ago, it was Greg Biffle's crew. So all these guys are sitting there basically just being really nervous about what they've got to do, realizing this may be their last stop.
Part of the crew, part of the team. Let's listen in on Greg Biffle's communication moments ago.
Pit road opens, 4 tires, pack it full, guys. We can go to the end from here. How about your adjustments?
He blew up. Just 4 tires, Doug. Go quarter pound out of the left sides.
10-4.
All right. Posted the communication.
Well, it sounds to me like his driver knows exactly what he wants to do. He's just trying to get a little bit more grip out of his left side tires.
Let's check in with Matt Yoka. Matt?
And Chris, they've already called an audible from that earlier change. Now, Greg just wants to shuffle the air pressures ever so slightly in the right front and left rear. Also, they're not going to go with any kind of wedge adjustment. They feel like it's overcast enough, and this is the conditions they're going to see all the way to the finish. But he is making a comment that he does see a little trail of oil up to the wall. NASCAR officials got the oil coming off the wall from Casey Kane, but Greg says there is still a trail leading up to the wall. He's passing that on to NASCAR officials so they can also put some Speedy Dry down there as well.
And I think the big thing going on right here, we've been talking about it these last few laps. If you notice, the air temperature has actually come up, but because turn 1 and 2 is in shade, look how much it's cooled down since the start of the race. Now we have a little sun on 3 and 4, but I think the big key is how much turns 1 and 2 has cooled down. It has definitely changed the way these race cars are driving.
And you better change your race car accordingly. If you keep doing the same thing and this temperature cools down, the cloud and overcast, you'll get behind here and get run. They'll outrun you.
When you make the wrong change, you pay the price. Jeremy Mayfield earlier, too much air pressure in the tires. Car didn't like that. He lost a lap. He is just now, a couple hundred laps later, gotten the free pass to get back on the lead lap.
But I think when you're looking for more grip, Darrell, and I think this is what got Jeremy in trouble a while ago, is I like what Greg Biffle, Doug Richards talking about. Whatever you have to do to fix the balance, take air out of the tire. That gives it more grip. Do not put air in a tire.
Ooh, I hate that. Turns into a big old basketball.
This definitely could be one of the most important stops for these teams today. No mistakes on the pit stop, no mistakes leaving or exiting pit road. This could be the final one, Matt.
Pit road is open. The crews are up on the wall. Greg Biffle's team, Doug Richard told them, good, smooth, solid stop. The next 14 seconds when he hits his ball, hits his pit stall, could decide who wins this race as the 41 and 42 go on by. They're going to pull a tear off the window. windshield, both sides for Greg Biffle to help with visibility. Good solid stop so far to Genie Zelasco.
A very quiet green flag run for Jamie McMurray. In this case, quiet is good. The car much better. They're going to make an air pressure and track bar adjustment. Biggest concern, he can't see out the back window. The cooling hose is loose. He's asked a spotter for more help, Steve.
Kurt Busch has his service complete, just half a turn of wedge. He's battling a tight race car. Dick.
Casey Mears having the best day of his entire career. Will come out of the pits in at least second position. Once again, they have made minor adjustments to that car to try to tune it up because so far he has not been able to pass Greg Biffle.
There you see the race off pit road. Tony Stewart, that 20 car, gaining 2 positions. See some of the losers. Jimmy Johnson losing 2 spots. You see Michael Waltrip losing 1, Mark Martin gaining 1. This will be the time on pit road, including that pit stop. Tony Stewart right there gained those positions, as well as Rusty Wallace gaining some. You see the real losers, Kurt Busch and Jimmy Johnson.
A tire rolled away from Dale Jarrett's pit, so he'll go to the back on this restart. 57 laps to go in the Samsung Radioshack 500. Getting set for the restart, here are the top 5. Jeff Gordon stayed out to lead a lap and then made his pit stop a lap after everyone else on the lead lap. But third place, Jamie McMurray. What a pit stop.
They had a great pit stop, but Jeff Hammond was pointing out to me, if you notice, he's able to come to his pit box. He has an opening behind him because Bobby Labonte's a lot of laps down, and then the 25 car, Brian Vickers, is in front of him laps down, so he had an opening basically behind him, in front of him, and that really helps him get in and out of his pit box, along with a great pit stop by that Donnie Wingo group.
No mistakes, and McMurray is third behind Greg Biffle and McMurray's teammate Casey Mears as we get the restart. 54 to go.
Well, to use a racing term, we're going to ratchet it up a little bit now, boys.
I would say so. Better pull them belts tight one more time. They are going now.
Is that anything like crank it up?
Sounds good to me.
I like it.
Jimmy Johnson 7th, but still 2 big knots of cars mid-pack. Dick Bergman, what about our point leader?
Well, Jimmy Johnson didn't have as good a pit stop as he has been having all day. He came in 4th blank and he went out 7th. The problem, front tire changer Shane Parsnow fell, cost him 3 positions.
The DW talked about ratcheting it up. Greg Biffle in first, Jamie McMurray into 42. 283 laps into this race. They just ran the fastest lap they ran all day long.
Well, I tell you, that 16 car, you think back to California, the race he won. You think back to Atlanta, the race he almost won. And now today, they have been on a tear, that team has.
Elliott Sadler underneath Kevin Harvick's 29. The 17 comes with him. Matt Kenseth, that's for 12th place.
See a bunch of cars here that's still on the lead lap. See Jeff Burton in the 31, Kevin Harvick in the 29, and we're riding with Sterling Marlin in the 40 car. All these cars still on the lead lap, as well as Carl Edwards in the 99 car.
Well, some of these guys that were getting passed all day long are all of a sudden they're starting to pass people back. So the adjustments that they've made, the track temperature cooling down, some of it's going to play into somebody's hand.
I'm just watching our guys up the front. They're running in the mid 29-second bracket. That's close to what some of the cars qualified for this race.
But you know, as we were listening to the engine in whichever car that was, I'm not sure, that's not the same sound we heard last year. Remember last year, it sounded like a bunch of bumblebees. They were turning 10 grand. Today, they're turning 9,000, 8,800. A totally different sound.
Because of the gear rule you talked about earlier in the broadcast.
Bill Elliott.
Now he's got I think he might have a problem.
And look at Darrell, 7,400 RPM.
It's like he's almost maybe down a cylinder. You see right there, he's just barely turning over 8 grand right there.
Trouble for Stewart, or did Dale Jr. just get a run on it?
Jr. got the bumper up under the back of him, didn't touch him, but slid him up the hill.
But all these cars right here on the lead lap. Tony Stewart in the 20, Kurt Busch in the 97. We heard Dick Bergman talk about the problem on the pit stop with Jimmy Johnson in the 48. And there's Michael Waltrip in that 15, as well as Rusty Wallace in 2. All racing for position.
Rusty has done a good job. You know, he got that penalty early, and he has fought back, and now he's back in the top 10. He's up in the 8th spot. His old car has looked good from the get-go, other than that penalty he had to serve.
We rode with Bill Elliott. He's brought that ailing car to pit road where they had the hood up. So Greg Biffle with 46 laps to go out in front of Casey Mears. Mears was quickest the last time by, 29.87 seconds, and that gap stays constant at just right about half a second, 0.6 of a second.
I just can't help but think back to Atlanta. It just keeps coming in my mind about the 16 car. How great it was all day long until the last pit stop. They were afraid to do very much to it because it had been so good. Other people adjusted and caught him, and he was shocked when he didn't win that race.
But Darrell, Mike, I know we have 45 laps to go, but I'm so impressed with Casey Mears and that 41 team.
You got a half a second lead over second place, and you got 3.4 to third.
Doug Richard giving that information to his driver, Greg Biffle. But these guys, they like you say, sometimes they almost like they hunt trouble. They got in trouble with a cut tire on Friday, unload a backup car. This could be the best run that Casey Mears has had his entire career right here.
Oh, no question. His best finish is 4th. Here he's running 2nd and well within sight of the leader.
I think back again to Atlanta, which is a sister track to this one a couple of years ago. He had a shot at winning Atlanta, had engine failure late in the day.
Now, it was mentioned it's his mom's birthday. Well, his mom and dad are at every race, and they are just very much a part of his racing life. And they are, of course, his biggest fans.
Yes, they are.
So that would be big.
His dad, Roger, drives his motor coach for him. I talked to Casey yesterday, and you could just tell his confidence was at an all-time low. All it would take is a great run here today. That confidence could go straight up the meter.
Plus, he's got to pay for that new Viper, which my son Scott loves because Casey does peel-outs with it. That's cool. Another Casey has not fared so well today. Jeannie?
Yes, KCK, 24 hours ago, there was a completely different situation for you. As we watched the 91 pull behind here, what went wrong?
Well, we had a great race going on. You know, our Evernham engine was running great, and actually broke an oil pump shaft, which, you know, that's a part that we buy. That's not a part that the engine shop messes with. So the engine run good. We just had a problem with that, and other than that, I think we could have run top 5. Who knows how good.
All right, take a split out of the weekend and find some success in that. Thank you.
So that appears now that we have 2 of the 3 Evernham cars who's been strong here all weekend behind the wall with a engine mechanical failure of some type.
Sometime when you lock one of those dry sump pumps up, it's shrapnel that's inside. The little piece of stuff will fly around in the engine and get to that pump and lock it up. It could be the tip off of a valve spring. It could be any little small thing because they run tight tolerances on those pumps.
Boy, Tony Stewart in the 20 car, Jimmy Johnson in the 48 just went by him. Rusty Wallace in the 2 ran up behind him, got him loose. He had to go up the racetrack. Now he's going to lose another position to Michael Waltrip in the 50.
Still out there by himself.
Like Jeff Gordon, just doesn't
clear, all clear.
Underneath of him, it drives him crazy. Runs him up the racetrack.
Stewart's car was best at the start of this race when he took the lead and disappeared until caution brought the field to him.
His car has somewhat been up and down. He was really good at the beginning of the race, dropped the green flag, led some laps, got behind a little bit, then made it back to the top 5. Now he's losing some ground again.
And right behind him, Ricky Rudd, still a contender in that Rent-A-Center Motorcraft Ford.
Larry, I think a lot of that has to do with Tony Stewart being out front. Clean air. Nobody around me.
I tell you, a nice recovery, though. Last year's winner, Elliott Sadler, in that 38 M&M's car, it was not that many laps ago. He was just about to go a lap down. A lot of adjustments on that car as he stayed on the lead lap by Todd Parrott and that crew. He's up there in the 12th position, but feeling pressure from Jeff Burton in that 31 car.
And Burton's car much better than earlier in the day when he went a lap down and got the
trouble
free
down here.
pass.
Tony Stewart up high in turn 2.
Kaboom.
Another one of those engine failures. Big time explosion, and the caution is out. A lot of oil being laid down.
Yeah, he's on fire from the oil. He needs to get down and get that thing wound up. Right now, get out.
Yesterday, a hard crash for Stewart, not of his doing, right after the start of the race. And today, barbecue. 10th caution of the day as Tony gets out of there in a hurry. Still carrying it. It was his radio cord that was keeping him from making a quick getaway.
Well, you're inhaling all those fumes. So you got a lot of smoke in your eyes, and you don't know if the thing's on. You know it was on fire, and you don't know if it still is or not. You just want to get away from it. He need to bail out of that thing, and he did.
Stewart led 45 laps today, but will not finish.
Well, DW, we thought we had our last pit stop coming. Now, this was in the middle of turn 1 and 2. You can see all the oil being dumped out the bottom onto the exhaust pipes. That is an engine explosion.
You see the turbulence behind the car. You see how that pulls that air up, the fire up around the back of the car? That's the same thing it does to the air.
DW, it's been 20 laps since that last pit stop. We still have over 35 laps to go. I definitely think these guys hit pit road, but I think with 21 cars on the lead lap, we'll see some gambles here, Matt Yoakum.
Larry Mack, no gamble with the leader. What a way to bounce back. Last week they were 29th at Martinsville, their worst finish this season. Then they crashed during final practice, driving the California winner today. A good, solid, smooth stop. No major adjustments for Biffle, trying to score his second 500-mile victory of his NASCAR Nextel Cup Series career. He's down and away. Jeannie?
Well, the 42, Jamie McMurray, too tight off, so they're going down on the track bar. Don't need fuel, so they didn't get any. They figured that would help them, Steve.
Small wedge adjustment for Kurt Busch. Jeannie, he said his car had gone to the loose side. Let's go to Dick.
Well, Casey Mears' team had not been able to beat everybody off pit road, particularly Biffle. He had not been able to beat Biffle on the racetrack driving, so they took 2 tires. They gambled. And right now, Casey Mears is the leader here in Texas.
Dick, most importantly, Tony Stewart is okay. He climbed up, walked to the ambulance, so without assistance, and Tony's all right.
But the real winner on that pit stop, we talked about Casey Mears, but his teammate Sterling Marlin, 11th position. There's the gamble, 2 right side tires only.
Worked last week. Got him up front last week, and he got a good top 10 finish.
And there you see Casey Mears, Sterling Marlin, the Ganassi car, the fastest time because they only took the time, a little bit of fuel, 2 right side tires only. Clean air now with about 35 laps to go.
And there is Chip Ganassi, open wheel and NASCAR team owner. He's had a lot of success both places. Early in the race, 5 Roush cars in the top 10. Now, all 3 Ganassi cars in the top 4.
Under caution, 34 laps to go. It's been a wild ride so far. Jeff Green with 4 cautions in the first 35 laps. And in this mishap at the Texas Motor Speedway, Bobby Labonte got into some trouble. Was out for a while, not feeling well when the day started. Back in the race. Meanwhile, Greg Biffle in a backup car, same as Casey Mears, who is your current leader. Biffle moves out in front. And more mishap. Robbie Gordon, problems later in the race. A spill. No last call here. The 9th caution, Casey Kane, who won the Busch race Saturday here at Texas, off turn 4. And out of the race as you get a look through Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s car, and he does a nice job of avoiding more problems hanging in the top 10. Tony Stewart has led the 2nd most laps in this race just moments ago. Jeff Hammond guessing maybe a broken rod, igniting an oil fire. Tony hopping out of the car, walking over to the ambulance, and was okay. This was with about 37 laps to go in the race. As you get a look at the Home Depot Gibbs car, Tony has to be thinking that really burns my backside when something like that happens. But Tony Stewart is okay. with about 33 laps to go. Hey, you think this is exciting? Wait till next weekend. We'll be in Phoenix starting on Thursday. Busch practice. Nextel Cup practice follows. That's on speed. And then on Friday, Busch racing under the lights after qualifying for Busch and Cup racing. That's 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific from Phoenix. And the Duel of the Desert Saturday night on Fox with Subway Fresh 500. Dale Earnhardt Jr. for the last couple of races in Phoenix. Should be an exciting time in high definition only on Fox. Fans looking on. Casey Mears in a backup car, as we mentioned, along with Greg Biffle, holding the lead at this point under caution. Let's listen in on his team communication.
10-4. Them other guys behind us take 4. I'm not sure yet. I'll have to see how it shakes out there, but I know if you can get in front of him, you'll be gone.
What you were listening to right there, Chris, is that Casey was actually asking his crew chief, Jimmy Elledge, what went on behind him. He's leading the race. He wants to know who took on 4 tires, who took on 2, so he gets some kind of idea what the competition is kind of lining up behind him, has to offer.
First race led this season. Of course, Casey, the nephew of 4-time Indy 500 winner Rick Mears, and the son of off-road legend Roger Mears, hoping to make a name for himself here in Texas. Mike?
Tough break for Tony Stewart. 51 straight races in the top 10 in points. He may fall from there as we get set to go. Chip Ganassi racing with Felix Sabates, 3 drivers in the top 4. But what about this strategy of taking 2 tires this late in the race?
I know Casey Mears in the 41 seemed just as good as Greg Biffle, but I think what Jimmy Elledge was thinking, you know what? We've been running behind Greg Biffle for all these laps. Let me put my car in clean air. I won't have to contend possibly with that inside lap car, Ryan Newman, 20 laps on my tires. They rolled the dice.
Greg Biffle will cut that thing to the bottom and blow his doors off.
Well, let's see, Darrell. 31 laps to go. Green flag in the air. Casey Mears, the Fujifilm Dodge, brings Greg Biffle, Jamie McMurray, Sterling Marlin, Dale Earnhardt Jr., and Jimmy Johnson back down to turn 1.
Ryan Newman in the 12 car up there trying to get that lap back. Casey Mears running the high side.
Caution's out.
Has spun and hit the wall hard. Turn 2. Caution is out. Dave Blaney brought out the
Keep going. They're just now coming off of 4.
And has now brought out the 11th yellow flag.
Don't have to worry about the 12 anymore.
He gets a free pass. He'll be back on the lead lap. So we'll have 22 cars on the lead lap now.
You would run a little bit. I could try to keep somebody behind me. Oh, my God.
That was Kurt Busch, I think.
Okay, we're last car on the lead lap, so we can pit right now, can't we?
Well, they're calling a quickie yellow, which means that all cars, lead lap or lap down, can pit this time by, as Blaney got off the track without incident or debris.
These caution laps help guys. It only took 2 tires.
Darrell looked a little like Blaney might have been loose going in the corner and then might have gotten contact from Matt Kenseth.
Probably made some sort of an air pressure adjustment, thinking about a little short run here, not that many laps, and things spun around on him.
And just to update you, you talked about guys on 2 tires. We talked about the Ganassi cars, 3 of the top 4. Right now, Casey Mears in the 41, Sterling Marlin in the 40 is the 2 cars that elected to go with just right side tires after that 20-lap run on their left sides.
The last win for Chip Ganassi in NASCAR was Jamie McMurray at Charlotte in 2002. He had just taken over the car from Sterling Marlin, who had been injured while leading the points. Marlin got injured, had to climb out of the seat. They hired McMurray from out of the NASCAR Busch Series, and in his 3rd start, he went to victory lane at Charlotte.
I'll tell you something else that helps these guys that took 2 tires. They got to buff them in there that 1 lap. So that air pressure difference between lefts and rights will be a whole lot less now with just that lap on the tires.
But the one thing that I was learning talking to like Ray Evernham on Friday is these tires that we saw Ryan Newman got the free pass, he gets 4 fresh tires, is they don't like cycles. They don't like being heated up, cooled down, heated up, cooled down. For some reason they give up a little bit when they do that.
We've talked about teams running up front. Both of the DEI cars are in the top 10. Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Michael Waltrip currently 5th and 9th. Not since Loudon in last September have both of them finished in the top 10. Junior was 3rd, and Michael Waltrip was 9th. And we're now told that at the moment of caution, which is when NASCAR freezes the field, Ryan Newman was ahead of Casey Mears, so he gets to come around because the pace car picks up the leader, and that will make Joe Nemechek the lucky dog. He gets the free pass, and we'll be back on the lead lap. So once again, we'll have 21 cars on the lead lap. There's Nemechek. Declare your citizenship to the biggest NASCAR show to hit the air. NASCAR Nation, with special features like Beyond the Wheel, Home Base, and The Big Story. NASCAR fans can now stay closer than ever to America's biggest motorsport. To get Speed Channel, call 188-22-SPEED.
I guess Blaney could say, well, I started the day this way. I guess I'll end the day this way. Maybe they've been working there. Maybe they've been working, trying to get back to the way they were when they started. And they did.
Dave Blaney around in turn 2 and in the fence. And he did have contact from Matt Kenseth. We saw a little damage on Kenseth's right front, but the one view we had of it looked like Blaney was a little loose going in before contact was made.
But Dave Blaney, the 07, he's still on the lead lap, so they're trying to repair that car. He's back on pit road to maybe try to salvage a top 20 finish out of this with 23 cars on the lead lap.
Okay, halfway down the back.
I'd say that probably the track bar is jammed up against the rear end housing. It's making that thing pretty hard to drive, I'd say.
So with Blaney, if he's able to stay on the lead lap, that'll be 23 cars with 28 laps to go that are still on the lead lap. Not sure if Blaney's going to make it out in time. Dodge started the day with the first 3 positions. They have 3 of the front 4. Casey Mears, Greg Biffle's Ford, then McMurray and Marlin in Dodges, Earnhardt Jr. and Jimmy Johnson in Chevrolets, Kurt Busch's Ford, Rusty Wallace's Dodge, Michael Waltrip, Ricky Rudd, your top 10.
A lot of Dodges up in the top 8. We're getting 1 to go signal. Dave Blaney leaves pit road. He will stay on the lead lap, so we'll have 27 laps to go here in Texas.
This could be a Texas shootout.
Has all the makings of that.
As we said at the top of the day, it's a big rubber band race. Field strings out, caution comes out, they snap back together. And chances are at the end of the race, much like Atlanta, somebody will be side by side with somebody else with a checkered flag. That's what keeps them here with 27 laps to go.
Well, I know Greg Biffle was upset when he didn't win that Atlanta race. Carl Edwards won it, and he finished up 3rd. I think he'd be really, really upset if he didn't win this race today, because he has had the dominant car from the get-go.
And he had one of the cars to beat at Bristol. They made the decision to stay out on old tires, and he ended up falling out of the top 5 there.
It looks like Biffle is going to take a pretty big bite out of Jimmy Johnson's point lead, which was 160 coming into this race, as we get set for the restart, which will come with 26 laps to go.
Yeah, Jimmy Johnson, the 48, he has not led a lap today to get those 5 points. Can't spin those tires on this restart, especially those little older tires.
Green flag.
Casey Mears gets a pretty good restart, but Greg Biffle keeps tempo with him right here.
Yeah, this is going to be exactly what Biffle needed. Nobody on the inside.
Now, Biffle ran up to him into the middle of 1 and 2, but Casey Mears, the 41, got a good run off the corner.
I think got a little too close, and he couldn't get back to the throttle when he needed to.
Where Biffle is best is coming off turn number 2.
He's just going to be real good off the corner with those new tires.
Look at this battle right here. Dale Earnhardt Jr. in 8, Jimmy Johnson in the 48, Kurt Busch in the 97.
You're in the middle. 2 lap cars right in front of them, Mike Wallace, Kenny Schrader.
Greg Biffle, he has his hands full of Jamie McMurray right now in the 42 car. His car got loose down in 1 and 2, allowed Casey Mears in the 41 really to stretch it out.
Kurt Busch is off the pace down the back.
Darrell, his car got bound up coming off 2. He climbed the hill, had to get out of the throttle, and it cost him 2 spots.
It cost him a ton of momentum. I thought something was wrong with it.
Somebody hit the wall coming out of 4. It was Kyle Busch, but he keeps going.
Quite a bit of right side. He already had damage, got quite a bit more.
For the lead.
On the left-hand side of our screen right there, Greg Biffle turned to the bottom, got a good run off too. They're side by side into turn 3.
4 tires versus 2 tires. Advantage, Biffle.
All clear. Be smooth now. Take care of your stuff.
Murray in the 42 car, Casey Mears, his teammate, he elected to go with 4 tires. Donnie Wingo, his crew chief.
So he may have a chance at Biffle as this unfolds. But first, he has to deal with his teammate.
That's the biggest thing right now. His obstacle would be his teammate, Casey Mears. It depends on how long he has to wrestle with him.
Biffle's had the only car I've seen all day long that can just turn it to the bottom off of 2 and hold it wide open. He makes so much time off of that turn.
Carl Edwards almost hit the wall exiting 2. But whoa her up. Watch the 99, the green and white car.
I think there's about 10 or 15 of them that almost hit the wall off of turn 2. Yeah, he's way up there in the loose stuff.
See the battle heating up for second place between those 2 Ganassi cars. Casey Mears in the 41, Jamie McMurray in the 42. 2 tires versus 4.
Darrell, it's time for somebody to yell at somebody because those 2 teammates can't waste a whole lot of time racing each other.
No, right now, though, they're kind of, they can't do anything with Biffle, and they're pretty comfortable over the 4th place car of a teammate, Sterling Marlin. So, only thing they can hope of is something maybe happens to Biffle in these last 2 laps.
And Darrell, if there's a car that going with just 2 right side tires benefited, I think it was Sterling Marlin in the 40 car. He has quite a lead over Jimmy Johnson back in the 5th place. Remember, going with 2 tires, they gained 11 positions on the racetrack. That had been hard to done even with 4 tires.
Well, they put him up and leading the race at Martinsville last week, so they've got a little experience doing that, and it's paying off for them.
Elliott Sadler, last year's winner, Mark Martin. This is 12th place.
This is definitely, though, for the 38 car, Elliott Sadler, I think a comeback of the day, because I go back about 150, 200 laps ago, he was about to go a lap down to our leader, Greg Biffle.
What I like about the 38 crowd, Larry, they rebuilt that car one time on a pit stop. They had the back end jacked up, the left side jacked up. They were changing everything they could change.
We've been talking about our points leader, Jimmy Johnson, in the 48 car back in 5th. That time, he had the fastest lap. 19 laps to go.
Whoa, the 41 got loose off of 2 that time. Here comes McMurray down the back.
And Jamie McMurray moves into 2nd place, but he's about 1.3 seconds behind a fast disappearing Greg Biffle.
All around. Hit your marks here. 18 to go. 18.
It's like the old retro Texas Oil Company paint scheme there for McMurray.
I like that big old I like that star on the hood, especially when you're in Texas. Baby, you can drive my car. You are in the state of the star.
We just talked about Jimmy Johnson while ago in that 48 car, how fast his lap times are right now. He has really reeled in Sterling Marlin. Look how much faster through the middle of the corner he is. He's going to catch Sterling Marlin. This is a battle for 4th, 18 to go.
Oh boy, Jamie McMurray about a 10th quicker that lap.
But he has over a second to chop off Greg Biffle right now in the 16 car, our leader. Sterling Marlin looked like in the 40 car maybe just somewhat moved over. He saw how quick that Lowe's car caught him, Jimmy Johnson.
No pressure from behind for this 40 car. Just let him go.
That 48 team reminds me so much of Matt Kenseth and Robbie Reiser the year they won the Cup championship. Days that started out bad, turning out good. They've been making a lot of chicken salad.
I mean, Mike, they are going for something that's almost impossible to even think about. 13 consecutive top 10 finishes, going all the way back to Lowe's Motor Speedway last October.
And how many of those days at one time in the race were they running 30th or worse?
Last week, this week.
Yeah, turn them around.
This will be speeds at the line in miles per hour so far. Greg Biffle, our leader, with the fastest time.
Oh, yeah. Say bye-bye to the pipster.
Let's see, though, Jimmy Johnson, 48 car, 2nd place.
I tell you, that 16 car just impresses the heck out of me. The way he can cut that thing to the bottom, and he never lifts. Right around the bottom, and away she goes.
again, just to update our fans that are joining us late, Greg Biffle, the 16 car, who's our leader. This is a backup car, had a practice crash yesterday morning, had to start dead last on the field.
I was just looking at Mark Martin's car when it went by here. He's been in the fence. Right side of his car has got some damage on it.
That's Jeff Burton alongside for 12th place, and Harvick coming.
I think Mark's got, I don't know when he hit the fence. I didn't see that, but I noticed the right side going by. He's got a lot of damage.
Yeah, he's lost 2 positions in this lap. And this is a battle with teammates. Matt Kenseth in the 17, Carl Edwards in the 99. This is a battle for 20th. These are a couple of the last cars on the lead lap right now.
Biffle has opened it up to 2.2 seconds on Jamie McMurray.
Just to let you know, it hadn't been a problem yet, but it's bobbling a little bit because of fuel pressure, and it's been vapor locking a little bit on the restarts, but never in the middle of the run before. I'm bouncing between 6 and 9.
Fuel pressure woes for Biffle, we'll see.
Boy, this right here is a race now. Dale Jr. squeezed in between the lap car and Michael, and they just about come together, and Kurt Busch sitting there watching them.
6th place here. Still side by side.
Coming up on some lap traffic here. That's going to play into this little party.
Battles all over the place as we've got 11 laps to go. You see Mark Martin in the 6th, Jeff Gordon on the 24. That's a battle for 16th between those guys.
Michael ran Dale Jr. up the hill just enough, and Jeff Gordon gets pinned in behind Mark Martin. Mark's got a lot of damage to the right side. These 2 guys are going at it. I don't know if they're having fun or not, but I guess that's what they would say. Here you go, 3 wide. Yikes. Squeezes in there. Let me down, Michael. Let me down. Let me down. Sorry, dude.
But you're right, DW. 324 laps in this race. I believe these 2 cars have been racing about 300 of those 324 laps.
Sterling Marlin may move into the top 10 in points, and Tony Stewart may fall out of the top 10. Stewart's car caught fire, and let's get an update on Tony from Jeannie.
Guys, I guess first and foremost, I should say he is okay. He's still in the infield care center. He's being treated for some burns. He has a 1st-degree burn right around his right elbow, almost a 2nd-degree burn. It's on the back side of his thigh, right above his right knee. And again, I'm stressing he's okay. They said they're going to treat him here. It's nothing that he can't handle himself when he leaves.
Jeannie, it sounds like the boot around the gear shift lever may have burned up and allowed flames into the cockpit. Trouble for Elliott Sadler, the defending champion of this race.
Limping it in. There's something wrong with it. It's obviously quit running.
I'm going to tell you what, we've been talking about Jimmy Johnson in the 48 car. It was not that long ago that he drove by Sterling Marlin for the 4th position. Here with 8 laps to go, he is reeling that 41 car, Casey Mears, in. So Jimmy Johnson now trying to get another position, our points leader coming into this race. I think everyone would love to see a caution right now except our leader, Greg Biffle, in the 16 car. Jamie McMurray in the 42 car right now. He's almost 3 seconds behind our leader, Greg Biffle.
Kurt Busch had caught Dale Earnhardt Jr. as Jr. battled side by side with Michael Waltrip, but unable to do anything with Jr. Kurt right now 10 seconds back. But he's going to pick up 4 positions in the standings today.
A couple of nice veterans back there too. Ricky Rudd in the 9th and Rusty Wallace in 10th. Good job for those guys today.
Talk about a bad day turned good. If you watch the first 50 laps of this race and then came back, you'd be very surprised to see Jimmy Johnson here battling Casey Mears for 3rd place.
Jimmy Johnson actually got Casey Mears a little loose, but the 48 car, Johnson got a little loose as well.
Outside.
Larry, there was just too many laps to go. I mean, it's working out for
Clear high. Stay after it, man.
But it just seemed like there was too many laps to go for a 2-tire combination.
Kurt Busch made the pass on Dale Jr. for 7th, and Ricky Rudd moves in.
Ricky Rudd, the 21 car, we've been talking about him all day long. Great qualifying run. I think he's been in the top 10 all day long in this race.
There for a few drivers. Can't wait for these last 5 laps to fly by and see the checkered flag. Nice run for Rudd after his best qualifying effort of the year this far.
Not too far behind, we watched Greg Biffle, our leader, not too far behind Ricky Rudd, though. I think that's another great recovery. Jeremy Mayfield in that 19 car, he's up to 11th, sat on the outside pole. They put some air in the tire. The car got terrible loose. He all but went a lap down. He got the free pass, and here he is trying to run down Rusty Wallace in the 2 to get back in the top 10.
There's Rusty running in 10th. And Wallace will climb 4 positions in the points to 3rd, the way things sit right now.
Oh, he's going to be jumping up. I'm telling you right now, that cat he'll be excited.
Ricky Rudd makes the move on Dale Jr. This is 8th place.
Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s car, the 8-car Budweiser car, it's really starting to fade here as we've got 3 laps to go for our leader, Greg Biffle. He has a few cars in front of him, but I think pretty much he can just cruise from here. He has over a 4-second lead over Jamie McMurray.
This isn't over for 8th place.
Got him.
Might be now.
2 to go.
Rusty Wallace is closing in on that group. That's going to be a 3-car battle before it's over. And Jimmy Johnson, who just ran the fastest lap of all competitors that lap, is closing on 2nd place Jamie McMurray.
Keeps clawing away, clawing away.
Well, he better claw in a hurry because white flag, 1 to go.
He's going to be there when they get back around here. I can tell you that. He is cutting into that 42's lead. But that's
it.
Cat right
Still
there.
got plenty of room. Just give yourself plenty of room there to get you a good picture here. If you can get it off of 4. Give you some room on that 77.
I'd say that'd be the thing to do.
Greg Biffle's going to lead 219 laps. And for car owner Jack Roush, it's going to be 4 wins with 4 different drivers. Greg Biffle wins in Texas.
Jamie McMurray 2nd. Jimmy Johnson in 3rd. Casey Mears 4th. Sterling Marlin 5th. 3 Ganassi cars in the top 5.
Little brother got home 6th today. Good job for that team.
That should be a happy group.
Hey, you guys on pit road. Awesome today, guys. Way to go. You deserve it.
Yes, they do. Plus the work they did getting to race day today from last to first with a backup car.
5th career win for Greg Biffle and his 2nd of the season. He won at California in a backup car, thoroughly dominated after coming from 41st at the green flag. A great day for Chip Ganassi racing with Felix Sabates, 2nd, 4th, and 5th. Jack Roush, 3 cars in the top 10. And Earnhardt Incorporated, 2 cars in the top 10. Yeah, here was Biffle's fast car, the one that crashed. This was the backup.
Look at that rubber he just threw out there on the track. I don't know if he blew his tire or if that was just a bunch of rubber that was riding in the wheel wells with him. But man, he threw rubber everywhere. He definitely scorched the hides. Look at that. That's just rubber.
He does not need that rubber anymore.
Greg Biffle goes to victory lane, and we will too after this.
Welcome to the Nextel post-race show. Brought to you by Nextel, helping NASCAR groups get things done. NASCAR and Nextel, partners in speed.
More than 200,000 fans watched 35-year-old Greg Biffle from Vancouver, Washington. Used to wrestle in high school and wrestled through this field for his 3rd win in the last 8 races in victory lane here in Texas as he celebrates. Our Steve Burns is down there. Steve?
Thanks a lot, Chris Myers. Greg Biffle. Man, talk about the accomplishment of what your team did. You crashed in first practice yesterday. Brand new or backup race car. Talk about that accomplishment.
Man, I tell you what, it was a big day for us. I got to thank all the guys from the Roush Racing organization.
a 99 team, Viagra team, charter car. Everybody came over and just dug in and got this race car ready. Got it off the tailgate. We blew a right front tire. We're concerned whether we had a tire problem. Goodyear tires are fine and no tire problems at all, but just excited. These guys behind me, man, I just love them to death. They worked so hard for me and put this race car together like they did in that amount of time. And it's just great. I love this race, and NASCAR's made with a shorter spoiler, and I like driving a loose race car, and it's working into my favor.
Congratulations, second win of 2005.
Thank you.